Not everything unearthed can be understood. Some traces lie silent in the desert, the mountains, or deep beneath the sea, seemingly meaningless, yet sparking decades of debate among archaeologists. Why are they there? Who left them behind? And could they be telling a story humanity isn't ready to hear? In this video, we explore ancient discoveries that no history book dares to explain, mysteries that challenge everything we thought we knew about the past. On the windswept highlands near Lake Umayo in southern Peru stands one of the most mysterious stone structures in South America, and perhaps in all of human history, Silustani. This site is home to a collection of chulpas, cylindrical stone towers used as burial monuments by the Kola people, an ancient civilization that existed before the rise of the Inca. But what makes Silustani truly remarkable isn't its religious function or its scenic location, it's the way the stones were cut, fitted, and assembled with astonishing precision, without mortar, and with no signs that metal tools were ever used. Imagine this multi-ton stone blocks, carved with complex angles and slight curves, fitting together like a 3D puzzle created by a culture that had no iron or steel. The stones are so tightly joined that you can't even slip a knife blade between them. How did the Kola, or anyone living over 4,000 meters above sea level in the Andes, achieve this without machinery, without hardened metals, without any modern measuring tools? The answer remains one of history's unsolved mysteries. What do you think really happened at Silustani? Did the Kola people possess a type of technology that we have forgotten today? Or were these structures actually the legacy of an even older civilization, one that may have vanished from history? If they had no metal tools, then how did they cut the stones? Stone-on-stone carving. But how could they make such perfectly curved cuts? Heat, a special liquid, or something completely beyond our imagination? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Who knows, you might hold a missing piece to this 1,000-year-old mystery. If there's one aspect that stands out as the core mystery of Silustani, it's this: there is no archaeological evidence whatsoever that the people who built this site used metal tools, not even bronze or tin, let alone iron or steel. According to mainstream archaeologists, the Kola culture flourished from around the 12th to 15th centuries, meaning they existed before or alongside the Inca civilization. At that time, although ancient South Americans could craft bronze tools, cutting and shaping hard stones like andesite or diorite was entirely beyond their known technological capability, at least based on what we currently understand. So how were they able to produce perfectly flat surfaces, as if sliced by industrial saws, precisely square inner angles like those made by CNC machines? Blocks with subtly curved yet uniform surfaces, so precisely shaped that they lock together on all sides with zero visible misalignment. Even if we accept the mainstream theory that these were carved using stone tools, it would take many years just to finish a single block, and the precision required for these 3D interlocking shapes would be nearly impossible to achieve. One minor miscalculation would throw off the entire assembly, and yet Silustani shows no signs of trial and error. Each block is smooth, symmetrical, as if it had been pre-programmed. Additionally, many stones feature grooves and protrusions clearly designed to lock into one another, allowing the towers to withstand centuries of erosion and seismic activity without mortar adhesives or deep foundations. Such a system reflects a remarkably advanced understanding of construction, one that can't be easily explained by traditional handcrafting methods. In light of the complete absence of metal tool traces at Silustani, many alternative researchers have proposed bold theories to explain how ancient people could have shaped stone with such near-perfect precision. One of the most discussed possibilities is that the Collar people were not the original builders, but rather inheritors or reusers of structures left behind by a much older civilization, one that may have predated the Inca and possessed a kind of knowledge that modern humanity has since lost. Among these theories, a prominent one suggests the softening of stone through natural methods such as using acidic extracts from certain plants to temporarily make the stone malleable, allowing it to be molded more easily. Another hypothesis goes even further, proposing that ancient builders may have been able to resonate with the stones at specific frequencies using high-frequency sound waves to break down molecular bonds similar to how ultrasonic cutters work today. While these ideas lack direct physical evidence, they persist for a simple reason. Conventional explanations still fail to convincingly account for the advanced construction techniques found at Silustani, especially under conditions where no metal tools were available. When compared to other famous stone structures in South America, such as Sacsayhuaman, Ollantaytambo, or Pumapunku, where massive blocks were fitted together without mortar, Silustani stands out in a completely different way. Rather than overwhelming with sheer size or weight, Silustani astonishes with its micro-level precision and refinement. The stones here were crafted like a three-dimensional interlocking puzzle, featuring gently curved surfaces, diagonal locking joints, and complex connections, giving the impression of mechanical engineering rather than ancient handwork. This level of craftsmanship is so advanced that even modern engineers would struggle to replicate it without machinery or specialized metal tools. Some researchers go even further, suggesting that the stones at Silustani may be the remnants of a lost technology, one that might have been deliberately erased from human history. At the site, several stone blocks appear to have been abandoned mid-construction, as if the builders had suddenly vanished, leaving behind unfinished work and no trace of their methods. Could this be evidence of a civilization that once possessed the ability to manipulate matter at a level far beyond our current understanding, only to disappear without explanation? To this day, the greatest unanswered question remains: how could ancient people sculpt such hard stones with the precision of clay when they had no metal tools? If we, with all our technology, cannot recreate these constructions without modern machines, then assuming ancient people did so with stone tools isn't a theory, it's a denial of logic. Silustani continues to defy modern science, like a stone-coded message no one has yet deciphered. And perhaps the most unsettling part is not that we don't know the answer, but that we still believe we already do. Hidden among the granite hills of Bihar, India, the Barabar Caves stand as one of the most mysterious and flawless ancient monuments ever discovered. Carved more than 200 years ago, during the reign of Emperor Ashoka of the Maurya dynasty, these caves are not only a testament to the astonishing craftsmanship of ancient builders, but also a puzzle that remains unsolved in the history of human architecture. If this is your first time hearing about the Barabar Caves, what do you think could have enabled an ancient civilization to create something so perfect? Did they possess lost techniques, or do you believe it was simply the result of hard work and time? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your perspective. What makes the Barabar Caves truly astonishing is not just that they were carved over 2,000 years ago, but that they were directly hollowed out of solid granite, one of the hardest stones known to man. Granite is so tough that even today's advanced tools struggle to cut and shape it with precision. And yet the ancient builders of Barabar achieved something extraordinary. They created symmetrical chambers with gently curved ceilings, perfectly flat floors, and doorways so sharply defined they rival modern architecture. On the surface, the design might appear minimal, but when you look closer, the true marvel emerges: a flawless mirror-like polish on every surface inside the cave. It's this surreal level of smoothness, not just the shape, that transforms the Barabar Caves from impressive ancient relics into one of the most baffling engineering mysteries of the ancient world. When you step into one of the Barabar Caves, the first thing that astonishes you is that the interior surfaces are mirror-smooth, clearly reflecting light, giving the feeling of standing inside a room paved with glass or high-quality ceramic tiles. Not just in a few spots, but the entire interior space, from the floor and walls to the ceiling, has perfectly smooth and flat surfaces, without a single rough patch, crack, or unevenness. What makes this even more miraculous is knowing that these caves were carved from granite, a rock with very high hardness, about 6 to 7 on the Mohs scale, second only to diamonds. Creating such a perfectly flat, smooth, and shiny surface on this extremely hard stone remains an unsolved mystery to this day. When examining the Barabar Caves closely, what puzzles archaeologists and engineers the most is the complete absence of any tool marks on the interior granite surfaces. In most stone constructions, ancient or modern one, can usually spot traces of tools, chisel marks, cut lines, scratches, or at least some uneven or rough patches. But at Barabar, every surface is entirely smooth, flat, and shining like glass, without a single sign of hammer or saw marks. It feels like you're gently touching glass, not hard granite. This phenomenon has raised many questions among experts for decades. Did ancient people possess a now lost, highly advanced stone polishing technique, or did they use some special tools unknown to us? Some theories suggest they might have used very fine abrasives or mineral powders to polish the stone, but it remains unclear how they maintained such consistent shine and flatness across the massive walls, ceilings, and floors. In fact, to this day, no one has successfully replicated the mirror-polished granite box effect of Barabar using only hand tools. Even with modern technology, creating such a perfectly smooth, flat, and shiny granite surface on such a large scale is extremely difficult, costly, and time-consuming. This only deepens the mystery and admiration for the ancient builders' skills and raises the question: are there still ancient technological secrets that we have yet to discover? Some researchers, upon seeing the Barabar Caves, have exclaimed, "This doesn't look man-made. It feels like something created by a machine or a forgotten civilization with advanced tools." That's because it's not just the polish. The arched ceilings, echo chambers, and geometric precision seem more like digital design than ancient labor. Engineers who have measured the angles, curvature, and depth report extremely low margins of error, far beyond what we expect from ancient handwork. Which raises the larger question: who and how carved these glass-smooth granite chambers over 2,000 years ago? Beyond the visuals, Barabar is also an acoustic wonder. Speak or tap inside the chamber, and your voice booms and resonates like inside a massive echo chamber with varying effects depending on where you stand. Some scholars believe this isn't a coincidence, that the caves were engineered with ancient sound acoustics in mind, perhaps for meditation or spiritual rituals. Some theories even link this to the use of sound frequencies or vibrational energy fields that modern science is only beginning to explore. Could the ancients have discovered something about sound and space we have since forgotten? Barabar is typically associated with the Ajivika sect, an ancient religion now lost to history that coexisted alongside Buddhism and Jainism. Some caves contain inscriptions in Brahmi script and reference Emperor Ashoka, suggesting royal sponsorship. However, the interior designs don't resemble shrines or living quarters, but rather laboratories or resonant chambers. This has led to many bold theories. Were these caves designed for sound-based healing, vibrational rituals, or energy storage? Could they have been ancient acoustic data chambers, preserving information through sound and structure? Today, creating a mirror-smooth interior within solid granite would require diamond-tipped drills, laser cutters, and 3D alignment systems. Even a small room would cost millions of dollars. Yet somehow more than 2,000 years ago, ancient artisans carved and polished massive stone chambers with zero visible errors. Imagine trying to build this today without electricity. No steel tools, no measuring software, just stone, rudimentary iron, and human hands. Could you create a chamber that reflects light like a mirror and feels smooth like polished marble without leaving behind a single tool mark? The carved caves of the Barabar Hills are not just architectural achievements, they are enigmas, mirrors to the past, challenging what we think we know about human history. While many mainstream scholars cautiously interpret them as brilliant religious sanctuaries, others suggest Barabar might be the legacy of forgotten knowledge, or perhaps even clues to a civilization we've yet to uncover. In the heart of the Mediterranean, on the small islands of Malta, lie ancient stone structures that have stunned both archaeologists and neuroscientists alike. These mysterious stone temples, dating back over 5,000 years before Christ, challenge our understanding of prehistoric engineering and raise an even more unsettling question. Could our ancestors have known how to use sound to influence the human brain? Questions for you. What if our ancestors knew how to use sound to influence the human mind over 5,000 years ago? Could this be a lost technology of humanity, or just a coincidence in ancient architecture? If there were a room that could alter your brainwaves with just a human voice, would you dare step inside and try it? Drop your theory in the comments below. We're reading them all. Hidden deep beneath the ground in Malta, the Hypogeum of Hal Saflieni is a mysterious prehistoric structure entirely hand-carved into solid limestone. Its architecture spans 3 underground levels, intricately connected, like an ancient labyrinth. Among its many chambers lies a small space known as the Oracle Room, which has baffled and even unsettled modern scientists. This room possesses an almost supernatural quality. It can amplify and resonate sound at a specific frequency of around 110 Hz, a range that matches the deep male voice. When someone speaks at this exact pitch, the sound doesn't just echo within the room, it travels through the entire network of stone corridors, creating a powerful resonance often described as a voice from the earth. Strangely, this effect doesn't occur with just any sound. It is triggered only within a very narrow frequency band, suggesting a level of acoustic precision so exact it feels intentional, as if it were deliberately engineered by the ancients. The acoustic effect in the Oracle Room is not just an architectural curiosity, it opens up a staggering possibility. Sound may have the power to alter human consciousness. In interdisciplinary studies conducted by the University of Malta, the Ruđer Bošković Institute for Applied Acoustics Croatia, and international neuroscientists, volunteers were placed inside the Oracle Room and exposed to sound precisely tuned to 110 Hz brainwave measurements. Using EEG revealed a significant spike in theta 4-8 Hz and alpha 8-12 Hz activity frequencies typically associated with deep meditation, dreamlike states, or altered consciousness within just a few minutes of exposure. Many participants described sensations of leaving reality, losing all perception of space and time, and even experiencing a light out-of-body state. These experiences mirror those of monks after hours of meditation, but in this case, they were triggered simply by a single sound at the right frequency played in the right space. This has led scientists to ask a profound question. Was this merely coincidence, or did ancient people possess deep knowledge of sound's neurological influence on the human brain? One of the most astonishing aspects of the hypogeum is that the entire structure, including the oracle room, was built without any modern sound-enhancing materials, such as wood metal or acoustic insulation. And yet sound produced at 110 Hz can still resonate powerfully, travel vertically through the structure, and generate distinct standing waves. According to acoustic engineers, this phenomenon is due to the curved dome architecture and the remarkably precise spatial proportions of the chamber, allowing it to function as an acoustically optimized resonance chamber where sound is not absorbed but rather amplified in depth. This raises a provocative question: was this effect merely a coincidence born of primitive stone construction, or is it the result of intentional design crafted by a civilization that understood how sound could influence the human mind? One of the most astonishing sensations reported by visitors to the oracle room is not the echoing sound itself, but the distinct physical vibration they feel throughout their bodies. Participants in various experiments have described that the sound doesn't just resonate in their ears, it travels through the chest, lower abdomen, and even seems to vibrate the entire body as if they are physically resonating with the frequency. Some described the experience as if their body was hearing the sound through its cells and soft tissues, not just through the ears. This sensation closely mirrors ancient healing practices such as vibrational therapy or sound healing, where sound is used to recalibrate the body's energy and neurological balance. If ancient people truly understood how to use sound frequencies to alter states of consciousness, then the next critical question is, what did they use it for? One strong possibility is that frequencies like 110 Hz were used during religious rituals to induce trance-like states where individuals felt connected to the spiritual realm or divine entities. Another theory suggests that sound played a role in ancient communal healing, where groups of people immersed themselves in sound vibrations to soothe the mind and regulate emotions. Some scholars go even further, referring to this as a form of prehistoric consciousness technology using sound as a tool to guide collective emotion, calm psychological tension, or elevate awareness. Something we are only beginning to explore today under the name neuroacoustics. Despite numerous efforts to reconstruct the oracle room using 3D models and modern acoustic measurements, no replica has been able to fully recreate the altered state of consciousness experienced in the original space. This has led many researchers to believe that the unique effect is not due to architectural shape alone, but rather to a singular combination of geographic location, limestone structure, natural humidity, and enclosed space, creating an acoustic environment that is virtually impossible to replicate. If we accept that the ancient Maltese could design a space to alter human consciousness through sound, then we're faced with a profound conclusion. There may have once existed a form of technology based not on machines, but on frequency emotion and the brain that has been completely lost to history. The story of the sonic temples of Malta is not just an archaeological curiosity. It is a deep and unanswered question that hovers between science and spirituality, between engineering and emotion, between the echo of stone and the whispers of the human subconscious. Imagine standing atop a towering mountain in the desolate wilderness of Turkey, surrounded by massive stone heads, cold, expressionless, yet exuding a regal presence. Gazing out toward the horizon like silent gods, guarding a secret buried for more than 2 millennia. This isn't a scene from a fantasy film. It's real. This is Mount Nemrut, a site that is part tomb, part temple, part memorial, and perhaps a haunting warning from a king who once declared himself divine. With colossal human heads toppled and scattered across the mountain like judgments turned to stone, this place is not merely an archaeological site. It is a metaphysical stage where humanity, divinity, and time intersect. A forgotten emperor who once dreamed of immortality left behind a silent mark, waiting for future generations to decode it. Do you dare to stare into the eyes of stone and ask yourself, is this a legacy or a curse? If you were standing among the giant stone heads atop Mount Nemrut, what would you think? Are they sacred symbols of a lost civilization, or a chilling reminder that power, no matter how great, will eventually be brought down by time? Do you believe this is a monument of glory, or a warning from the past? Share your thoughts in the comments below. King Antiochus I of Commagene was not merely the ruler of a small kingdom nestled at the crossroads of Greek, Persian, and Assyrian civilizations. He nurtured an ambition that reached far beyond human limits. Born of both Greek and Persian lineage, he saw himself as the perfect embodiment of East-West unification. But Antiochus didn't stop at being a king. He proclaimed himself Theos, a living god, and set out to realize an unprecedented project: to build Mount Nemrut as a temple, a tomb, and an eternal declaration. He didn't simply want to be buried. He wanted his soul to merge with the immortal gods, to live on forever in human memory. Thus, Mount Nemrut is not merely a site of worship. It is a monument to the ambition of self-deification, a place where man dared to cross the final threshold: death. What leaves the strongest impression and the most haunting feeling at Mount Nemrut is the sight of those giant stone heads scattered across the mountain peak, as if once severed from their bodies and abandoned amid the cold winds of a remote highland. Each head stands between 2 and over 3 meters tall, carved from solid limestone, and bears the faces of Greek gods like Zeus, Apollo, Heracles, the Persian god Mithras, and most notably King Antiochus I himself, placed deliberately among the ranks of immortal deities. By carving his own likeness alongside the gods, Antiochus was not merely expressing devotion, but making a bold declaration. He did not just want to be honored, he wanted to endure as a god. Over time, the statue's bodies have collapsed, perhaps due to earthquakes, harsh weather, or human destruction, but the heads remain intact, lying motionless, gazing into the distant horizon. This surreal scene, surrounded by sweeping mountains and bathed in the dim light of dawn or dusk, has led many to believe that these are more than sculptures. They are metaphysical symbols of immortality, judgment, and the thin veil between man and God. When you step into the statue field, your first feeling is not admiration for the art. It is a deep, quiet caution. The stone eyes, though lifeless, seem to stare, observe, and assess everyone who dares enter this sacred ground. It is not an empty gaze. It is the gaze of beings who once held supreme power, now turned to stone, yet still holding a silent authority from the eternal beyond. In such a setting, every step you take seems to echo with an invisible question: who are you, and are you worthy to stand among us? And it is the absolute silence of the stone that makes the message even louder. Without a single spoken word, these heads lying on ancient ground seem to whisper through the wind: we are still here, immortal, but you are not. Some scholars believe that the giant statues atop Mount Nemrut were not merely religious artifacts, but rather carefully calculated political tools. By placing his own image among gods like Zeus, Apollo, Heracles, Mithras, and Tyche, Antiochus and was not simply expressing devotion. He was making a declaration in stone that he belonged among the divine. This was not about being remembered as a king, but an effort to establish an unassailable, godlike authority. The message etched into the mountain was clear. To forget me is to defy the gods themselves. On stone slabs near the statues, archaeologists discovered a long inscription known as the Nomos, a solemn testament left by King Antiochus for future generations. In it, he described himself as a bridge between Greek and Persian civilizations and commanded that future generations must hold rituals to honor him eternally. More strikingly, the text clearly warns that if this command is forgotten, misfortune shall fall upon the ungrateful. This was not merely an expression of religious devotion, it may have been a ritual curse, carved into stone to last forever. Though the statues have toppled and their heads lie scattered, the message endures, making Mount Nemrut feel all the more sacred, metaphysical, and spiritually weighty. One of the most chilling experiences at Mount Nemrut is the moment you come face to face with dozens of colossal stone faces, each one solemn, motionless, and completely silent. There are no smiles, no diverted gazes. Every pair of eyes stares intently into the distant void, as if waiting for something yet to come, or silently upholding a vow made to the one who created them. During sacred hours, like sunrise or sunset, golden light falls upon their ancient contours, making the statues seem almost alive. In those moments, Mount Nemrut is no longer an archaeological site, but transforms into an eternal stage where legend, power, and messages from the beyond continue to unfold in silence. Could it be that Antiochus I didn't just seek worship, but deliberately challenge the future? That if, thousands of years later, people still journey to Mount Nemrut, still stand in silence before those stone eyes, then he has triumphed over death through the memory of humankind. But perhaps the entire monument is also a cold warning that the ambition to deify oneself, no matter how grand, will ultimately leave behind only fallen stone heads staring into the void as a lasting testament to the final limits of human power. What do you think? Are the giant stone heads of Mount Nemrut simply ancient relics, or an eternal warning from the past? History is never silent. It just waits for someone to listen. Share your thoughts below. Beneath the scorching sands of Saqqara, once a spiritual heartland of ancient Egypt, lies a structure that modern archaeologists and engineers still cannot explain. It's not a pyramid, it's not a temple, it's a vast underground labyrinth, housing massive granite boxes weighing up to 70 tons, each placed deep within rock-cut chambers far below the surface. This place is known as the Serapeum of Saqqara. According to official records, it was built to bury the sacred Apis bulls, divine creatures worshipped as manifestations of the god Ptah. But when researchers ventured deep into the tunnels, they didn't just find oversized stone sarcophagi, they found astonishing precision in the cuts, perfect 90-degree corners, and mirror-like surfaces polished to near perfection. Most incredibly, no one has been able to explain how the ancients moved and lowered these massive boxes, each heavier than a modern truck, into such tight, confined spaces. The Serapeum is more than just a monument. It is a direct challenge to everything we think we know about ancient engineering. Who built it? What technology did they use? And why go to such impossible lengths to create boxes of this scale? The answers are still waiting to be uncovered. If you had to bet on one theory, who do you think really built the Serapeum? The ancient Egyptians or a lost civilization we've never heard of? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know which theory you lean toward. At first glance, the Serapeum may appear to be just another ancient Egyptian burial site for sacred animals, but hidden deep within is something that continues to puzzle both archaeologists and modern engineers. Enormous granite and diorite boxes, each carved from a single solid block, with no joints or visible imperfections. These materials are extremely hard, harder than regular steel, and today can only be effectively worked using industrial-grade diamond tools. And yet the ancients not only managed to cut them, they polished the interiors to a mirror-like finish, crafted perfectly square internal corners, and placed lids weighing tens of tons with such precise fit that they appear to be sealed airtight, as if in a vacuum. This level of accuracy goes far beyond primitive hand tools. It bears the hallmark of modern mechanical engineering, and to this day, no one has offered a convincing explanation as to how such work was done thousands of years ago. But here is where the real mystery begins. How were these monstrous objects transported? And even more puzzling, how were they lowered into underground chambers through tight corridors and narrow passageways that modern machinery can barely navigate? The Serapeum's underground network lies approximately 12 meters beneath the surface, consisting of a long central corridor with side chambers carved directly into solid bedrock. Each chamber holds a massive stone box, but what's particularly striking is that the corridors and entryways are extremely narrow, completely unsuitable for bringing in 70-ton blocks with ease. There are no traces of ramps, pulley systems, or any lifting mechanisms. In such confined space, moving, let alone precisely positioning, these enormous blocks is nearly impossible using manpower alone. This contradiction has sparked numerous questions about the construction techniques that ancient civilizations might have employed. One of the most perplexing aspects of the Serapeum is how the ancient builders managed to move and position massive granite boxes weighing up to 70 tons into narrow underground chambers. While the ancient Egyptians famously built the pyramids using ramps and manpower over time, none of those traditional techniques could be applied here. The space inside the Serapeum is far too confined. There's no room for a long enough ramp, no space to operate cranes, and absolutely no possibility of hundreds of men or animals pulling in unison. There simply isn't enough room to stand, turn, or maneuver. Moreover, there is no evidence that these boxes were assembled on site. All signs indicate that they were fully carved and polished beforehand, with smooth interior surfaces and perfect angles, then somehow transported into place. This means that the ancients would have had to lower an entire 70-ton object underground, then move it horizontally through tight corridors with virtually zero clearance. This is no longer a question of brute strength. It is a mechanical engineering problem that even modern technology would struggle to solve. One proposed theory suggests that the stone boxes were lowered vertically from above into the underground chambers through a vertical shaft, possibly a temporary pit or a structure that has since been concealed by time. However, if this theory is correct, the construction process would have been extremely complex and dangerous. Suspending a 70-ton block in mid-air, then lowering it precisely into a confined space, followed by sliding it horizontally into a perfect position without scratching its polished surfaces, is virtually impossible without the use of massive pulley systems, industrial cranes, and highly precise control mechanisms. Notably, no traces of lifting or lowering equipment have ever been found in the area. The absence of any physical evidence makes this theory both intriguing and deeply questionable. Faced with the clear limitations of known ancient technology, Some researchers have proposed more daring theories. Could the ancients have possessed a now-lost technique, such as the ability to temporarily soften stone, or the use of non-linear mechanical methods that were never recorded? Some go even further, suggesting that the Serapeum may be a remnant of a highly advanced civilization that predates ancient Egypt, a civilization that vanished, leaving behind structures that defy our current understanding. While such theories are often dismissed by mainstream archaeology as implausible, the question still lingers. If this was merely a burial site for sacred bulls, why employ such extraordinary, seemingly anachronistic engineering? A major point of controversy is that not all of the stone boxes at the Serapeum were ever used for burial. Many were discovered empty, intact, and without any traces of remains or ritual objects, as if they were placed there not for interment, but for preservation, sealing, or even display. This raises a profound question. Was labeling them as tombs for the Apis bulls truly accurate, or simply a convenient explanation added later? These unused boxes may hint at an entirely different purpose, one that remains unresolved to this day. What astonishes many modern engineers is the almost absurd level of precision found in the crafting of the Serapeum's stone boxes. Their interior surfaces are so smooth, they reflect light like a mirror, and the inner corners are perfectly square, razor sharp, something that even modern tools would struggle to achieve within a sealed granite block. Even more remarkable, all of these boxes are made from Aswan red granite, quarried nearly 900 kilometers south of Saqqara. This means that each block had to be cut from the quarry, transported down the Nile, dragged across the desert, and only then carved with incredible precision before being lowered into the underground chambers. How did they prevent the stone from cracking during transport? How were they able to align a multi-ton lid so precisely that it fits as if vacuum-sealed? And most of all, why invest so much effort and technical mastery into structures that once sealed were never meant to be seen again? Mainstream scholars maintain that the boxes served a religious purpose, but the extraordinary level of engineering and logistics doesn't quite match the explanation of simple animal burials. The Serapeum's proximity to Djoser's pyramid and its symmetry and precision hint at a deeper spiritual or technological role. Modern theorists suggest possible uses involving resonance, vibration, or even energy storage, due to the quartz-rich granite. While speculative, these theories emphasize one thing: the mystery of the Serapeum is far from solved. Until someone can explain, in purely physical terms, how 70-ton granite boxes were placed underground 3,000 years ago, the Serapeum will remain an open question, a riddle posed by the ancients that still challenges the modern world. On May 5, 1821, Napoleon Bonaparte, one of the most powerful and controversial figures in European history, took his last breath on the remote island of St. Helena, where he had been exiled after his defeat at Waterloo. The official cause of death was recorded as stomach cancer, the same illness that had taken his father's life. Yet more than 200 years later, his death remains the subject of intense debate. Did he truly die of natural causes, or was he the victim of a carefully disguised assassination? Do you believe Napoleon truly died of stomach cancer, as officially recorded, or is there something more sinister behind it? Share your thoughts below. Do you lean toward natural causes or a carefully hidden assassination? For decades, the theory that Napoleon died of stomach cancer was widely accepted by historians. Symptoms like abdominal pain, nausea, loss of appetite, and progressive weakness seemed to support this diagnosis. However, When compared with typical clinical signs, several inconsistencies emerge. Napoleon did not suffer from significant weight loss, a symptom almost always present in late-stage cancer patients. His complexion remained healthy, and he was strong enough to take daily walks until shortly before his death. These details gradually weaken the credibility of the natural death theory. A shocking discovery from the 20th century reignited suspicion. Surrounding Napoleon's death, hair samples preserved as keepsakes were analyzed and found to contain abnormally high levels of arsenic, far exceeding safe human limits. Arsenic is a deadly poison, colorless, odorless, and tasteless, and particularly dangerous when administered in small doses over time. It can gradually accumulate in body tissues and cause physical decline that mimics the progression of natural illness. This revelation sparked a chilling hypothesis: could Napoleon have been slowly and silently poisoned, with his deterioration made to appear like an ordinary disease? This is the most compelling part of the mystery. There was clear motive for assassination, and it was strong. In 1821, even while imprisoned on St. Helena, Napoleon remained a living symbol of revolution. To patriotic French citizens, he was a hero. To monarchists, and especially to the British, he was a lingering political threat. If he ever escaped again, as he had once done, from Elba, Europe could erupt into chaos once more. Even in isolation, Napoleon maintained some contact with the outside world and could influence revolutionary movements in France and Italy. His very existence posed a threat to the fragile post-war order. Therefore, silently eliminating him may have seemed like the most effective solution for those in power. So who specifically stood to benefit? The British government. Britain was responsible for Napoleon's imprisonment. Although they claimed to treat him humanely, reports indicate his living conditions were harsh, damp quarters, poor quality food, and a toxic environment. The officer overseeing him, Sir Hudson Lowe, was known to have a personal grudge. Some historians believe Lowe, or someone under his command, may have secretly poisoned Napoleon, perhaps through his food or daily supplies. The Royalists in France. After Napoleon's exile, the Bourbon monarchy was restored. Yet they feared his return and the revolutionary wave he might reignite. His death would allow them to maintain power without further uprisings or repression. Members of his inner circle. Some of Napoleon's once loyal followers had grown weary, disillusioned, or ambitious. It is not unthinkable that a betrayal could have come from someone within his own household. With so many possible motives, if Napoleon's death was indeed an assassination, then the beneficiary was not a single person, but an entire political system striving for stability. To this day, no direct evidence has ever identified an assassin behind Napoleon's death. However, when viewed in the broader context, clear motive, favorable opportunity, and realistic conditions, the theory of slow poisoning becomes difficult to dismiss. What fuels suspicion even more is the uncanny timing. A man who once shook the foundations of Europe dies quietly, at the perfect moment, in the perfect place, and in exactly the way his political enemies would have wished. Could that be just a little too perfect to be coincidence? Some modern scientists suggest that the high levels of arsenic in Napoleon's hair may have come from environmental sources, such as hair dye wallpaper or the damp, moldy conditions on St. Helena. However, no one has been able to explain why all of these factors would conveniently converge at the exact moment his natural death served Europe's desperate need for political stability. Napoleon's death was not merely the end of a man, it marked the downfall of a powerful political symbol. He had been a source of inspiration for revolutionary movements across Europe and a constant threat to the restored monarchies. His permanent removal from the political stage paved the way for the post-Napoleonic order to consolidate power without opposition. And perhaps that is what makes his death most suspicious of all. In 1917, 3 shepherd children in Fatima, Portugal, claimed to witness apparitions of the Virgin Mary. During 6 visions, they were given 3 secret divine revelations carrying messages from heaven. The first 2 secrets were revealed early visions of hell, a warning about World War II, and a call for repentance. But the third secret was different. It was sealed, locked away, hidden from the public. The third secret was entrusted to Sister Lucia, the longest living of the 3 seers. She wrote it down in 1944 and sent it to the Vatican with a request it should not be made public before 1960. When 1960 arrived, the Vatican declared that the world is not ready. And so the silence continued for another 40 years. What do you think made the Vatican remain silent for 4 decades? Was the content simply too terrifying for the public? Or was it about maintaining power and control within the church? Share your thoughts in the comments. Every theory is worth considering. It wasn't until the year 2000, under global pressure, that the Vatican released a document they claimed was the complete third secret. Its content was symbolic: a bishop in white walking through a ruined city, ultimately being shot and killed, along with many other clergy. The Vatican linked this imagery to the 1981 assassination attempt on Pope John Paul II. But many people did not believe it was the whole truth. Numerous theologians, priests, and even cardinals insisted that the text revealed in 2000 was only part of the real secret or had been edited. Sister Lucia, the original recorder of the secret, had hinted that the actual message was deeper, possibly referring to apostasy within the church or a global catastrophe. Some individuals close to the Vatican claimed they had seen a longer letter with more direct warnings, clearer language, and nothing like the released version. This is the heart of the controversy. Why would the Vatican, the most powerful religious institution in the world, hide something for nearly a century? The answer may lie in what they stood to lose if the full secret had been revealed. If the full version of the third secret contained references to betrayal from within, such as cardinal against cardinal or doctrinal distortion from the highest levels, it could have shaken the very foundation of Catholic belief. It might have caused widespread doubt among the faithful, leading to internal division and the erosion of the Church's authority. Some theories suggest the concealed part of the secret warned of nuclear war, the apocalypse, or global disaster. During the Cold War, releasing such a prophecy could have caused mass panic, despair, and undermined the Church's role as a source of spiritual stability. The Vatican has always been highly protective of its moral image worldwide. If the vision described internal decay or negative depictions of clergy, it could have inflicted serious damage on the Church's long-standing reputation, especially during times of scandal. Many Vatican scholars argue the vision was metaphorical, open to symbolic interpretation. But critics believe the Church deliberately blurred the content rather than releasing the full original version. If the original text contained names, dates, or specific warnings, the Church would lose control over how the message was interpreted. Concealing the secret becomes a way to retain the power to define and control faith itself. Another explanation is that the Vatican believes some truths are too sacred or too dangerous to be revealed. They see themselves as guardians of divine mysteries, protecting the faithful from spiritual harm that might come from premature disclosure. Yet this also raises a serious question. Who decides what truth is safe to know? And has this control gone beyond ethical boundaries? No one outside the Vatican's inner circle knows for sure. Perhaps the 2000 document is the full secret. Perhaps not. But the delay, the inconsistencies in testimonies, and indirect evidence from those who claim to have seen more, all continue to suggest that something has and may still be kept hidden. Today, the third secret of Fatima is no longer just a prophecy, it has become a symbol of the conflict between faith and power, truth and secrecy. If the Vatican truly concealed something powerful enough to shake the foundations of religion, then perhaps the greatest mystery isn't what was written down, but why they never wanted us to read it. One of the world's most perplexing archaeological enigmas stretching across a silent desert. In the bone-dry expanse of southern Peru, carved into the rust-colored plains of the Nazca Desert, lie hundreds of massive geoglyphs so large, so precise, and so mysterious that they have puzzled scientists, historians, and dreamers for decades. Known collectively as the Nazca Lines, these ancient artworks span over 500 square kilometers and depict a wide array of forms, from simple straight lines and geometric shapes to complex images of spiders, hummingbirds, monkeys, whales, and even humanoid figures. What makes them truly astonishing isn't just their sheer size, some stretching as long as 300 meters, but the fact that they can only be fully seen from the air. From the ground, most of them are invisible or appear as random scratches. But from the sky, a stunning panorama emerges. This leads to the inevitable, haunting question: who were they made for? If you were living in that time, unable to see from above, would you ever think of creating massive drawings you could never fully view yourself? Do you think these geoglyphs were made for the gods, for beings from the sky, or for a purpose we still don't understand? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your theory. The Nazca civilization, which flourished between 200 BCE and 600 CE, had no known access to flight. Yet the lines demonstrate a level of planning coordination and visual coherence that suggests a top-down perspective. For many years, researchers were baffled. How could an ancient society, without hot air balloons or aircraft design, such precise imagery only visible from hundreds of meters above? Some proposed the Nazca people might have used rudimentary scaffolding, or observation towers, or even grids and ropes to map out the figures from the ground. But the more complex the designs became, the more this seemed to stretch the limits of what could realistically be achieved without an aerial view. And so the speculation began. Perhaps the most debated aspect of the Nazca lines is why they were made at all. Over the years, several prominent theories have emerged, each offering a different interpretation of these enigmatic carvings. One of the most widely accepted hypotheses suggests that the lines were part of religious rituals, particularly ceremonies, to call for water in the arid Nazca region. Some lines form paths or corridors wide enough to walk upon, and evidence shows that ancient people may have walked along them during ritual processions. Given the harsh desert environment, water was life, and the Nazca may have believed these giant figures pleased the gods or spirits controlling rainfall. Some glyphs, such as the spider linked to rain and the monkey from the Amazon rainforest, are associated with fertility and water in indigenous mythologies. In this theory, the lines served as sacred landscapes, blending art, spirituality, and desperate hope for survival. Another compelling idea views the Nazca lines as an enormous astronomical observatory. Scholars have noted that some lines align with points on the horizon where the sun rises or sets during solstices, or where prominent stars and constellations appear. The massive geometric shapes and straight lines may have served as a giant calendar, helping the Nazca track seasonal cycles for agriculture. Maria Rieker, a German mathematician who devoted her life to studying the lines, passionately believed in their astronomical significance. She argued that the positions and orientations of many lines weren't arbitrary, they mirrored celestial movements. Some even suggest the monkey figure aligns with the constellation Ursa Major as seen from the southern hemisphere thousands of years ago. But critics argue these alignments could be coincidental given the hundreds of lines and infinite possible orientations. Still, the hypothesis remains a powerful reminder of how ancient cultures often intertwined sky and earth, crafting monuments that mirrored their cosmology. Then comes the most controversial but undeniably fascinating theory: extraterrestrial contact. Popularized by Erich von Däniken in his 1968 book Chariots of the Gods, this idea suggests the Nazca lines were created for or by beings from another world. The argument hinges on the fact that the images are only fully visible from the sky, and some of the straight lines resemble runways or landing strips. Could the Nazca have been trying to communicate with celestial visitors, or were these landing zones for alien craft? Von Däniken's theory has been widely rejected by mainstream archaeologists as pseudoscience. There's no physical evidence of advanced technology or spacecraft, and yet the idea persists, not necessarily because of proof, but because of the deep emotional and psychological impact the lines create. When we see something so grand, so precise, and so far removed from ordinary human experience, it's tempting to reach beyond the earth for answers. What adds to the intrigue is the fact that the Nazca lines are still being discovered today. With the help of drones, AI mapping, and satellite imagery, researchers continue to uncover new geoglyphs, some smaller and more faint, others radically different in style. Each one raises more questions than it answers. Why did the Nazca invest so much effort into something they could not even see in full? Were they mapping the heavens, walking sacred paths, or reaching toward the stars? Perhaps the true power of the Nazca lines lies not in their answers, but in their questions. They remind us that ancient people were not primitive. They were deeply spiritual, ingeniously resourceful, and willing to shape the earth itself in the pursuit of meaning. So, who were they made for? The gods, the stars' visitors from beyond, or maybe, just maybe, for future generations to wonder? The death of Cleopatra VII. The last pharaoh of Egypt remains one of history's most enduring mysteries. For over 2,000 years, the world has repeated the same story: that Cleopatra, devastated by the death of her lover, Mark Antony, and facing inevitable defeat by the Roman general Octavian, chose to end her own life famously by letting a venomous asp bite her. It's a tragic and poetic tale that has inspired countless works of art, theater, and film. But what if it's not the truth? What if Cleopatra didn't die by her own hand, but was murdered? But what do you think? Do you believe Cleopatra truly chose to end her life out of love and despair? Or could there be something more sinister behind her death? Let us know your theory in the comments below. The traditional account of Cleopatra's death comes from Roman historians like Plutarch, Cassius Dio, and Suetonius, sources that were written years, even decades after the events. According to them, Cleopatra took her own life in 30 BCE, shortly after Octavian's forces captured Alexandria. Mark Antony had already committed suicide, mistakenly believing Cleopatra had died. Upon learning of his death and realizing her defeat was final, she supposedly locked herself in her mausoleum and killed herself using either a snake or poison. But there are major problems with this story. First, there is no physical evidence of Cleopatra's death. Her body was never recovered, her tomb has never been found, and we rely entirely on Roman writings for the details. More importantly, the people who shaped this narrative, particularly Octavian, had every political reason to control the story. At the heart of this mystery is a chilling possibility that Cleopatra didn't kill herself, but was murdered on the orders of Octavian himself, who later became Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. The motivations behind such an act are compelling and strategic. Cleopatra was far more than a defeated queen. She was a symbol of independence, of Egyptian identity, and of resistance to Roman domination. As long as she lived, she represented a potential rallying point for uprisings, unrest, and rebellion. Even in chains, her presence would be dangerous. Octavian had already paraded her sister Arsinoe IV in a Roman triumph, and then had her executed. The idea that he would spare Cleopatra, who was far more powerful, influential, and iconic, seems inconsistent with his political ruthlessness. Cleopatra's death came at the perfect time for Rome. It allowed Octavian to consolidate his power without the need for a messy trial or execution that might generate sympathy for her. Moreover, there is the issue of optics. A public execution of a royal woman, especially one as famous as Cleopatra, could have been deeply unpopular both in Egypt and in Rome. Suicide, on the other hand, was seen by Romans as an act of nobility and acceptance of fate. If Cleopatra died by her own hand, Octavian could appear merciful, having allowed her to die with dignity. If she were murdered, especially in secret, and that fact became public, it could backfire politically. Controlling the narrative was essential, and that's precisely what Octavian did. He quickly took control of Cleopatra's palace and issued statements to the Roman Senate about her suicide. The accounts of her death were shaped and spread by Roman authors writing under the new regime. Even the method of death by Asp fits neatly into poetic tragedy and Roman symbolism. But some scholars believe the snake story was pure invention and that the real cause of death was a fast-acting poison, administered not by her, but by Roman agents. Another key detail often overlooked is that Cleopatra had expressed her desire to negotiate. After Antony's death, she met with Octavian and reportedly offered wealth cooperation and even her own children in exchange for clemency. Yet she died only days later. Why would a woman desperate to survive suddenly commit suicide? It doesn't add up unless she was silenced before she could become a liability. Modern historians like Stacy Schiff and Dwayne Roller have raised doubts about the suicide narrative. Some point out that Cleopatra was under strict Roman guard after her capture, meaning it would have been extremely difficult for her to acquire a snake or poison on her own. Others note the inconsistency in Roman sources about how exactly she died. Some say snakebite, others say ointment. Still others mention a hairpin or dagger. The confusion could be the result of a deliberate cover-up. In truth, we may never know how Cleopatra died, but we do know that her death was politically convenient, perfectly timed, and widely publicized in a way that benefited the new Roman emperor. The romantic image of a queen choosing death for love may have been one of the most effective pieces of propaganda in ancient history, crafted not to honor Cleopatra, but to erase her threat and control her legacy. Today, Cleopatra remains an icon, not just of beauty and intelligence, but of mystery, manipulation, and power. Her death is not merely a tragic love story. It is a warning about how history is written by the victors and how even the truth can be buried with the dead. Dragons, they breathe fire, soar through the skies, and hoard treasure in caves deep beneath the earth. From ancient Chinese scrolls to European medieval manuscripts, dragons have left their claw marks on nearly every civilization's mythology. But here's the strange part. Cultures that had no contact with each other described strikingly similar creatures. Why? Are dragons just the ultimate product of human imagination, a symbol of power and fear? Or could the legends be rooted, at least partly, in real observations of fossils, strange animals, and unexplained phenomena. Let's explore this enigma. And in doing so, we'll pay special attention to one particularly mysterious thread, detailed ancient records that describe dragons not as myths, but as real encounters. What do you think? Are dragons merely a product of human imagination? Or was there once a real creature behind the legend? Have you ever read or heard a dragon story from your own culture? Share it below. Was it just a fairy tale, or is there something about it that made you believe it could be real? In your opinion, what's the most reasonable explanation for why dragons appear in so many cultures? Fossil discoveries, real animals, misunderstood, collective memory of natural disasters, or perhaps a creature that actually once existed. Start anywhere: China, Babylon, Norway, Aztec Mexico, Cambodia. All tell stories of mighty serpentine beasts. These creatures may differ slightly. Some have wings, some are aquatic, some wise, others malevolent. But the core features remain oddly consistent: reptilian bodies, immense power, and a tendency to dwell in hidden places like caves, oceans, or clouds. The question is simple but unnerving: how could so many isolated societies invent the same thing? While modern audiences often assume dragons were always seen as symbolic or mythical, many ancient texts record them in the same tone as natural history. They don't speak in metaphor, they speak in observation. In ancient China, the dragon or long long was not just a cultural symbol, but a real part of the world. Texts like the Shan Jing, classic of mountains and seas, compiled more than 2,000 years ago, catalogue creatures seen or believed to exist. Several of these entries describe dragon-like beings with horn scales and the ability to summon rain or wind. In the Han Dynasty, scholars such as Wang Chong wrote philosophical works that discussed dragons as natural animals, placing them alongside known creatures like tigers and elephants. Some records even document sightings of dragons falling from the sky during storms, especially in southern provinces like Fujian. Rather than poetry, these were administrative entries. Reports of a dragon carcass discovered after lightning struck the riverbank weren't rare and were written in the same tone as crop yields or flood damage. In medieval Europe, dragons weren't just symbolic monsters slain by knights, they were seriously documented in bestiaries and even royal chronicles. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, one of the earliest historical records in English, reports in the year 793. In this year came dreadful forewarnings over the land of the Northumbrians, terrifying the people most woefully. These were immense sheets of lightning, and fiery dragons were seen flying in the sky. A literal reading, hallucinations, or volcanic lightning mistaken for flying beasts? The question remains, but the tone of reporting is earnest, not fantastical. In 13th century Ireland, Gerald of Wales wrote about a creature that lived in Lake Lough Derg. It was serpent-like, huge, and dangerous. He didn't claim it was a metaphor for evil, he claimed it was real. Even later, in 1572, in Bologna, Italy, a small dragon was reportedly killed and sketched in detail. The body was allegedly preserved in a university collection. In Persian and Arabic traditions, the Thuban Thorban was often described as a giant serpent or dragon-like creature. Ibn Battuta, the famous Moroccan traveler of the 14th century, recorded local stories in India and China of serpents so large they could swallow cattle whole. Again, many of these stories were told as fact, not allegory. In Egypt, early Islamic historians recorded accounts of desert travelers finding massive skeletons believed to be remnants of the dragons of the Red Land. One curious record even tells of Bedouins worshipping a long-dead beast whose bones stretched longer than their tents. So, if ancient people wrote about dragons with sincerity, where did the image come from? Some theories suggest early humans found fossils of dinosaurs or extinct megafauna. The skull of a protoceratops, half buried in Mongolian desert sand, resembles a horned dragon. Large fossilized bones of mammoths or whales might be misinterpreted as remnants of flying serpents or underground beasts. Other sources may include sightings of massive snakes, crocodiles, or even Komodo dragons, all real animals capable of terrifying even modern humans, especially in the dark corners of pre-scientific times. There's also the phenomenon of misremembering or exaggerating real animals, like oarfish or giant squids, which could inspire tales of sea dragons. Dragons might also be symbolic personifications of natural disasters, a storm cloud shaped like a coiling serpent thunder that sounds like wings, flapping volcanic eruptions painted as flaming breath. In cultures where myth and reality were deeply intertwined, it's not hard to imagine how people witnessing a destructive event would give it a name and a face. That face might just breathe fire and live in the mountains. Today, researchers are applying tools like comparative mythology, archaeology, and even AI-assisted translation of ancient texts to explore the dragon myth more deeply. Some geneticists have explored whether myths could contain distant memories of extinct animals passed down orally. Paleontologists and folklorists now work side by side in efforts to understand how dragon-like motifs may trace back tens of thousands of years in human storytelling. And strangely enough, some scientists argue that the human brain may be hardwired to fear snake-like shapes, possibly explaining why the dragon reptilian, powerful, dangerous, keeps reappearing in every culture. So, are dragons pure fiction? The evidence is ambiguous. What we do know is these dragons were not always treated as fantasy. They were written into law records, drawn in natural history books, and feared by real people who lived farmed and fought thousands of years ago. Whether these people misinterpreted fossils, exaggerated strange animals, or glimpsed something we've long since lost, we may never fully know. But one thing is certain: the dragon myth refuses to die. It haunts our legends, decorates our flags, and lives in our movies not as a forgotten relic, but as a living question mark in the human imagination. The monument that shouldn't exist. In the arid hills of southeastern Turkey, buried beneath layers of earth for over 10 millennia, lies one of the greatest archaeological enigmas ever uncovered: Gobekli Tepe. First identified in the 1960s, but only properly excavated starting in the 1990s, this site has turned conventional history upside down. Its megalithic stone pillars, some standing over 6 meters tall and weighing more than 10 tons, are arranged in complex circular enclosures and adorned with intricate carvings of animals, abstract symbols, and stylized humanoid forms. But the most astonishing fact: it was built more than 11,000 years ago, before the invention of agriculture, pottery, or the wheel. According to our traditional timeline, monumental architecture only arose after humans settled down, invented farming, and developed complex social systems. Temples, cities, governments, these were supposed to be the outcomes of the Neolithic Revolution. Gobekli Tepe completely breaks that model. The people who constructed this site were not farmers, not urban dwellers. They were hunter-gatherers, and that is precisely what makes it so radical. What intrigues you most about Gobekli Tepe? How they built it, why they buried it, or the lost rituals we may never understand? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Until the discovery of Gobekli Tepe, archaeologists believed that large-scale religious or ceremonial architecture required a settled agricultural society. After all, such projects demand long-term coordination, surplus food division of labor, and shared cultural narratives. But Gobekli Tepe predates the first known farming villages in the region by at least 1,000 years. No evidence of domesticated plants or animals has been found at the site. There are no cooking pits, no permanent houses, no garbage middens that would indicate a settled population. What we do find is an enormous ceremonial complex built with astonishing effort and skill. This suggests that mobile bands of foragers living off the land somehow came together to construct something that, according to all traditional models, they should not have been capable of building. This turns our assumptions on their heads. Could it be that the human urge for ritual belief and shared myth is what truly defines us, not farming, not technology, not even language? Some archaeologists now propose a radical new theory. Perhaps it was religion that created civilization, not the other way around. The logistics of constructing Gobekli Tepe are staggering. The limestone used in the pillars was quarried and shaped using only stone tools. The nearest quarries are located hundreds of meters away. Moving these multi-ton monoliths without the help of wheels or domesticated animals would have required a coordinated workforce, hundreds of people working in harmony, likely with shared goals and beliefs. But here's the catch: this happened before settled villages, before food surpluses, before any known hierarchy or written language. So how did hunter-gatherers who lived in small, scattered bands come together to build something so massive? One possible answer: they were drawn together by something more powerful than necessity, by belief. Gobekli Tepe may have functioned as a ritual gathering place, a spiritual center where various groups met seasonally to perform ceremonies, reinforce alliances, and perhaps celebrate a common world view. The very act of gathering in large numbers may have created the pressure to domesticate plants and animals nearby. That is to say, the need to support religious and social life may have driven the invention of agriculture, not the other way around. In this sense, Gobekli Tepe becomes a monument to the birth of human culture itself, not just to farming or to architecture, but to the fundamental human need for meaning, myth, and connection. We will likely never know the names of the people who carved the T-shaped pillars, or who decided which animals should be depicted: foxes, vultures, snakes, wild boars. We don't know what their rituals were, what language they spoke, or what gods they worshipped. But their effort and intent is carved in stone. The carvings themselves suggest symbolic meaning, perhaps representing clans, spirits, totems, or cosmological ideas. Some enclosures even show scenes that may hint at death rituals or mythic stories. And intriguingly, the central pillars in each circle often appear to represent human-like forms: broad shoulders, bent elbows, hands folded at the waist. Were these deities ancestors, shamans? What's clear is that these people weren't just carving animals they saw in daily life. They were expressing ideas, abstract, shared, possibly sacred. And that capacity for shared symbolism is a hallmark of cognitive modernity. It's what separates us from all other species. Gobekli Tepe, in that sense, is not just a temple, it's a declaration: we are human, we believe, we build. Perhaps the most haunting mystery of all is this: Gobekli Tepe was intentionally buried. Sometime around 8000 BCE, after centuries of use, the people who built and used the site carefully filled it with rubble and soil, entombing it layer by layer. This was no random abandonment. It was a deliberate act. Why would they bury a place so sacred, so labor-intensive, so symbolically rich? There are theories, but no answers. Perhaps the beliefs that had once united them had changed. Perhaps the rise of true agriculture and permanent settlements shifted their priorities. Maybe new ideologies, new leaders, or even environmental changes made Gobekli Tepe obsolete. or dangerous. Some scholars even wonder if burying the site was a sacred act, a ritual closing of the portal between worlds. Whatever the reason, that act of burial preserved the site for over 10,000 years until it emerged again to challenge everything we thought we knew about our species. Gobekli Tepe is more than just an archaeological wonder. It is a philosophical provocation. It asks us to reconsider the very foundations of civilization. Were temples really built after cities? Was belief merely a byproduct of survival? Or was it the spark that lit the fire of human society? It suggests that ritual came before reason, that myth came before math, and that cooperation was born not from trade, but from transcendence. And perhaps most surprisingly, it tells us that the first great monuments of humanity were not made by kings or empires, but by bands of wild, wandering humans who stopped just long enough to build something eternal. Few civilizations have captivated the world like ancient Egypt. The pyramids, hieroglyphs, mummies, and timeless gods have endured for millennia as symbols of genius, mystery, and majesty. But behind the temples and tombs lies a far more heated and unresolved question: who were the ancient Egyptians? Really, were they Black Africans? Were they Mediterranean, Middle Eastern? Or were they something entirely unique? A blend beyond our modern racial categories. What do you think? Do the ancient Egyptians belong to Africa, the Middle East, or somewhere in between? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's see how history looks through your eyes. This seemingly simple question has ignited some of the fiercest cultural and political debates in both academic and public spheres. Because behind every attempt to define the ancient Egyptians lies a deeper desire, the desire to claim ownership of one of humanity's greatest civilizations. And at the heart of it all is the issue of race, a modern construct projected back onto an ancient and far more complex reality. From the late 19th century through the 20th, early Western Egyptologists often depicted ancient Egyptians as essentially Mediterranean light-skinned, with features resembling Europeans or Middle Easterners. These interpretations were not neutral. They reflected a colonial mindset that could not reconcile African identity with high civilization. In response, many Pan-African scholars and Afrocentric historians challenged that view, asserting that the ancient Egyptians were in fact Black Africans, not just geographically African, but racially part of the same population as sub-Saharan Africans today. To them, denying Egypt's Black identity was part of a broader historical erasure and theft of African achievement. The truth, it's far more complex. Ancient Egyptian art depicts people with reddish-brown skin tones, different from the darker tones of Nubians to the south and the lighter tones of Libyans or Asiatics in the east. But skin color in art is not definitive proof of race. It was often symbolic, indicating gender status or geography, and not intended as a literal portrait. More recent scientific tools, particularly genetic testing on mummies, have further stirred the debate. A 2017 study of 90 mummies from Abu Sir el-Melek found their DNA to be closer to ancient and modern populations of the Near East than to modern Egyptians or sub-Saharan Africans. Many took this as confirmation of a Middle Eastern origin. But critics pointed out these mummies came from a single region in northern Egypt. They were from a period c. 1400 BCE, 400 CE, heavily influenced by foreign rule, Hyksos, Assyrians, Persians, Greeks, Romans. Mummification itself was mostly reserved for elite classes, which may not represent the broader population. Moreover, ancient Egypt was not static. Over 3,000 years of history, it saw waves of migration, trade, conquest, and intermarriage. Its people changed over time, and its racial composition likely varied across different dynasties and regions, especially between Upper Egypt closer to Nubia and deeper Africa, and Lower Egypt, closer to the Mediterranean. So, were the ancient Egyptians black or white? The honest answer is neither and both. They were a North African people, indigenous to the Nile Valley, who absorbed and blended traits from nearby populations. Their culture was distinct, their identity unique. Trying to classify them through our modern lens of race risks, flattening that complexity into political propaganda. This isn't just about the past. The racial identity of ancient Egyptians has been weaponized in modern cultural struggles. For many, black communities claiming Egypt as a black civilization is a matter of historical justice, reclaiming a legacy that colonial narratives stole. For others, especially nationalists in Egypt or the Arab world, these claims feel like a denial of their connection to a land they still inhabit. Meanwhile, some Western media and pop culture continue to portray ancient Egyptians with disproportionately white actors, sparking backlash over whitewashing. Each side sees the issue not just as historical, but existential. And yet the ancient Egyptians themselves left no racial classification system. They didn't see themselves as black or white. They were simply Remechi the people. To them, identity was cultural, geographical, spiritual, not based on skin tone. Linguistic evidence suggests their language was Afro-Asiatic, a branch that includes Berber-Semitic and Cushitic tongues, tying Egypt both to Africa and the Middle East. Archaeological records point to deep connections with Nubia to the south and Levantine populations to the northeast. Egypt, straddling Africa and Asia, was always a cultural crossroads. Its origins lie not in one tribe or race, but in a river, the Nile, which brought together people from different lands, allowing a civilization to flourish in unity, not in purity. In the end, the quest to define the ancient Egyptians by race says more about us than it does about them. They were not black, not white, they were Egyptian, and that in itself was enough to shape history. In the final days of World War II, as the shadow of defeat loomed over the Nazi regime, a strange story, half fact, half legend, began to take shape. According to this tale, an armored train loaded with gold, diamonds, ancient artifacts, and classified documents quietly departed the city of Breslau, now Wrocław, Poland, in 1945. That train, along with all its treasure, was never seen again. It simply vanished. Since then, decades have passed, but the Nazi gold train remains one of the greatest historical mysteries of the 20th century, captivating journalists, historians, researchers, treasure hunters, and the simply curious alike. Countless questions have been asked. Did it ever really exist? If it did, where is it now? And has anyone ever come close to discovering the truth? What do you think? Could an entire train filled with treasure really disappear without a trace? If it did exist, where do you believe it ended up? In a sealed tunnel at the bottom of a river, or dismantled and erased forever? Share your theory in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Among the many theories proposed, one location stands out above all: the city of Wałbrzych and its vast underground tunnel system. This place has not only remained the center of relentless rumors, but is also the only site to have produced geophysical evidence suggesting the presence of a train-shaped object buried deep underground. Located in the Ural Mountains of southwestern Poland, the area surrounding Wałbrzych was once home to one of the most secretive military construction projects of Nazi Germany, the Ries Complex, German for giant. This system consists of numerous tunnels, underground chambers, and reinforced infrastructure built into natural rock formations stretching for dozens of kilometers. The exact purpose of the project remains a subject of debate even today. Some believe it was meant to be Hitler's final headquarters, Others think it was a weapons development facility or even a hidden storage site for looted treasures. Within this area lies an old railway line, the route between Wrocław and Wałbrzych, which once transported materials for the construction effort. And it is along a stretch between kilometer markers 61 and 65 on this railway that treasure hunters believe the Nazi gold train was secretly hidden in a sealed tunnel buried deep beneath the earth. In August 2015, two men, one Polish, one German, claimed they had discovered signs of the missing train using ground-penetrating radar GPR equipment. They submitted their findings to local authorities, including an image showing a large object over 100 meters long buried underground right beneath the old railway line. News spread like wildfire. Not only the Polish media, but international outlets quickly turned their eyes toward Wałbrzych. At a press conference, Poland's then Deputy Minister of Culture, Piotr Żuchowski, announced that there was a 99% probability the train existed based on the radar data provided. Hundreds of researchers, volunteers, documentary crews, and curious onlookers flocked to the site. The overgrown railway, long forgotten, suddenly became the epicenter of the greatest treasure hunt of the century. In August 2016, an official excavation was launched. Geological survey teams and heavy machinery began digging through the layers of soil and rock around the suspected area. But after weeks of work, the outcome was disappointing. No train was found. However, some experts argued that the excavation only explored a small section of the site and didn't dig deep enough to reach the true underground level. Others speculated that the train might lie even deeper or in an entirely different branch of tunnels that remains undiscovered. The Rees Tunnel complex itself is estimated to be only 20% explored, with the majority still sealed off beneath the earth, untouched since the war. Its structure is highly complex, and most of it was abandoned post-war. For that reason, the possibility that a sealed tunnel containing the train exists remains entirely plausible. Although no definitive evidence has confirmed the existence of the Nazi gold train, the Wałbrzych area remains an endlessly fascinating destination for treasure hunters, explorers, and history enthusiasts. The allure lies not only in the mythical legend, but also in the extremely complex underground terrain with dozens of kilometers of tunnels that remain largely unexplored. Numerous historical records indicate that in 1945, Nazi forces hastily transported vast amounts of assets from Breslau into these mountains, perfectly aligning with the theory of a hidden treasure train. Furthermore, many wartime documents have yet to be fully declassified, leaving countless gaps for the imagination to fill. Above all, the greatest pull comes from the idea that a dark fragment of human history may still be buried beneath our very feet, waiting to be uncovered. The Nazi gold train is more than a missing train. It has become a symbol of the brutality of war, where millions were stripped of their lives and possessions, of desperation and greed, as the Nazi regime tried to hide or preserve its stolen riches before collapse, and of the unfinished chapters of modern history, where truth may still be slumbering in silence beneath layers of time and earth. To this day, no definitive proof has confirmed the existence of the Nazi gold train, but no one has disproved it either. The Rees complex, with its kilometers of tunnels and countless sealed chambers, remains a historical labyrinth full of secrets. Perhaps somewhere beneath the Polish soil, the train still waits a silent monument to crimes, secrets, and forgotten truths from one of the darkest eras of the 20th century. For centuries, generations of school children were taught a simple story. In 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed across the Atlantic and discovered the New World. It was a tale of bravery, determination, and monumental discovery. But over time, scholars, archaeologists, and indigenous voices have pushed back against this narrative, not only because it oversimplifies a complex history, but because it may not even be true in the first place. So let's dive into the evidence. Was Columbus really the first to discover America? If Columbus wasn't the first, then who truly deserves a place in the history books? Which piece of evidence do you find most convincing that someone reached the Americas before Columbus, the Vikings, the Polynesians, or another theory? Share your theory in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. First and foremost, it's critical to recognize that when Columbus arrived in the Caribbean, he didn't find a new world. He found a world that had been lived in, cultivated, and shaped by millions of people for thousands of years. From the sprawling cities of the Aztecs to the vast Inca Empire and the agricultural societies of North America, the Americas were not some untouched wilderness, they were home. The idea of Columbus discovering America completely ignores this reality. But even if we set that glaring issue aside and reframe the question, was Columbus the first non-indigenous person to reach the Americas? The answer is still likely no. The clearest archaeological evidence that challenges Columbus's place as the first European to reach America comes from a windswept tip of Newfoundland, Canada. There, at a site known as L'Anse aux Meadows, ruins of Norse-style buildings were uncovered in the 1960s. Carbon dating places them around the year 1000 AD, nearly 500 years before Columbus's first voyage. The Norse explorer Leif Erikson, son of Eric the Red, is believed to have led this expedition from Greenland, setting up a short-lived settlement in what the sagas called Vinland. L'Anse aux Meadows is more than just a story. It's hard physical proof, sod-walled structures, iron nails, and artifacts unmistakably Norse in origin. The site was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site for a reason. It confirms that Vikings were the first known Europeans to cross the Atlantic and set foot on the Americas. But the Viking presence is just the tip of the iceberg. Over the years, researchers have put forward a number of other theories, some grounded in serious investigation, others more speculative, about pre-Columbian transoceanic contact. Some archaeologists believe that Polynesians may have reached the west coast of South America before Columbus. One of the strongest pieces of evidence is the sweet potato, a plant native to South America that was found throughout Polynesia long before European contact. Genetic studies of ancient crops suggest trans-Pacific contact may have occurred as early as 1000 AD. Though we don't yet have hard archaeological evidence of a Polynesian settlement in the Americas, the botanical and linguistic evidence is compelling. Chinese explorer Zheng He led enormous naval expeditions in the early 1400s, decades before Columbus's voyage. Some fringe historians and authors, most notably Gavin Menzies, in his controversial book 1421, The Year China Discovered the World, have suggested that Zheng He's fleet reached the Americas. While this theory has gained popular attention, mainstream historians dismiss it due to the lack of solid archaeological evidence. No Chinese artifacts from the early 1400s have been found in the Americas in verified contexts. Another controversial idea is that West Africans may have reached the Americas before Columbus. The 14th century emperor of the Mali Empire, Abu Bakr II, is said to have launched a fleet into the Atlantic, never to return. Some researchers claim that Olmec statues with broad facial features resemble African traits, suggesting possible contact. However, most archaeologists argue that this is an example of facial pareidolia, and again, there's no solid archaeological evidence to support African landings before Columbus. There are even more speculative claims that Phoenician or Roman ships could have drifted across the Atlantic. Artifacts like the Bat Creek Stone or the Los Lunas Decalogue Stone are often cited in pseudo-archaeological circles, as evidence of Old World contact. But these items are widely considered to be modern forgeries or misinterpretations. Still, these theories show how the allure of rewriting history can grip the public imagination even without hard evidence. The debate over who discovered America often misses a deeper truth. The act of discovery depends on your perspective. From the standpoint of indigenous peoples, their ancestors had already discovered, explored, and lived across this vast continent for at least 15,000 years, possibly longer. They built trade networks, mapped rivers and mountains, and adapted to every climate zone, from the Arctic to the Amazon. In that sense, every wave of outsiders, Viking, European, or otherwise, arrived to a land already known, already named, already lived in. Why then does Columbus get the credit? The answer lies in politics and legacy. Columbus's voyage marked the beginning of sustained European colonization, which reshaped the Americas forever. His story was championed by European powers looking to justify their dominance, and later by the United States, which used Columbus as a symbolic figure of exploration and expansion. His myth served a purpose to create a clean, heroic origin story, but history is rarely clean, and certainly never simple. The archaeological findings at Lanceau Meadows are undeniable. They prove that Columbus was not the first European in the Americas, and they open the door to deeper questions about who else may have crossed the oceans before him. The Sweet Potatoes' global journey, tantalizing fragments of oral history, and scattered fringe theories suggest we may not yet know the full story. But one thing is certain: the Americas were not a blank slate in 1492. They were a canvas already richly painted with civilization stories and perhaps many forgotten encounters. In the quiet vaults of Yale University's Voynich, a rare book and manuscript library behind layers of protective glass, rests a book that has eluded understanding for over 600 years. Known as the Voynich manuscript, it is arguably the most mysterious book ever discovered. Written in an unknown script and filled with bizarre otherworldly illustrations, this ancient codex has resisted every attempt at interpretation by linguists, codebreakers, historians, and even artificial intelligence. It is a book no one can read, and yet somehow it reads like it makes perfect sense to someone. If you accidentally discovered a book written in a language no one on Earth could understand, what would you do? Would you try to decode it, keep it as a priceless artifact, or dismiss it as a clever hoax? Share your thoughts in the comments. Who knows, maybe the next Voynich codebreaker is right here in our community. What sets the Voynich manuscript apart is not just its age or its obscure origin, but the nature of its language, or what appears to be a language. The text, which spans over 240 vellum pages, is written in a flowing, cursive script made up of unique characters found nowhere else in any known writing system. The letters are elegant, consistent, and clearly follow grammatical rules. Sentences seem to start and end properly. Certain words appear frequently much like articles or prepositions in natural languages. There are even repeated phrases and patterns that resemble poetic rhythm or incantations. And yet, despite all these signs of structure, no one has been able to decipher it. Scholars have tried everything. Linguists have compared the script to dozens of ancient alphabets. Cryptographers have searched for ciphers, substitution patterns, and hidden codes. Some believed it might be a form of shorthand, others a complex code meant to hide forbidden knowledge. During World War II, professional code breakers, including those from the US and British intelligence, attempted to crack it. They failed. In the 21st century, teams have thrown machine learning and AI models at the problem. Still, the manuscript remains unreadable. The most puzzling part: statistical analyses of the text suggest that it isn't nonsense. When you run calculations on the word frequency, character clusters, and sentence structure, the manuscript behaves just like a natural human language. In fact, it behaves more like a real language than many invented ones, such as Tolkien's Elvish or Star Trek's Klingon. This has led some experts to believe that the text must encode meaningful information, but the language or the code behind it may have been entirely lost to time. One theory proposes that it might be a cipher for a known language that used a now-lost key. Another idea is that it was written in an extinct language using an invented alphabet known only to the author. Yet no cipher has ever explained the depth and consistency of the text across hundreds of pages, and no historical precedent exists for such a sophisticated hoax created in the 15th century. Adding to the mystery are the surreal illustrations that accompany the text. Many pages feature strange plants, none of which have ever been conclusively identified. Some pages show circular diagrams, perhaps of astronomical or astrological meaning. Others depict nude women bathing in pools connected by strange pipe-like structures, possibly some early medical, alchemical, or symbolic system. But without understanding the text, all interpretations remain speculative at best. So, who wrote the Voynich manuscript? We don't know. Carbon dating places the parchment around the early 1400s, but the identity of the author remains completely unknown. Some believe it might have been a medieval alchemist, others suggest a brilliant hoaxer, and a few even entertain extraterrestrial origins. The manuscript surfaced in 1912 when a rare book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich purchased it from an Italian Jesuit collection. Since then, its reputation has grown into legend. But despite the centuries of research, the central truth remains: we cannot read it. This is what makes the Voynich manuscript so hauntingly fascinating. It exists on the edge of human understanding, a complete text written in full confidence, as if the author never expected their language to be lost. Imagine writing a book with purpose, with knowledge and insight, only for it to drift into a future that no longer speaks your tongue. That's what the Voynich manuscript represents: a complete world locked behind an unbreakable linguistic barrier. It challenges our assumptions about communication, about history, and about knowledge itself. What if entire systems of understanding whole languages could disappear without a trace? What else might we have forgotten? And most hauntingly, what secrets might this book still hold? In an age where we believe every mystery can be solved with enough computing power or cleverness, the Voynich manuscript whispers a different message. Some knowledge may remain forever out of reach. Unless, of course, we one day find the key. In the peaceful and ancient land of Asuka, Japan, lies a mysterious stone structure that continues to baffle archaeologists and mystery enthusiasts around the world: massive stone steps, unofficially known as the Giant Steps of Asuka. They're not listed among famous heritage sites or sacred religious structures, yet they hold centuries-old unanswered questions: who built them, for what purpose, and most importantly, with what technology? If you were standing in front of these giant stone steps, what would you think they were made for? Do you believe that ancient people could have created such precise monolithic structures using only primitive tools? In your opinion, what's the most reasonable explanation? A lost religious site, a forgotten civilization, or something beyond conventional imagination? Are we underestimating the capabilities of ancient people, or have we missed a major piece of human history? Share your thoughts in the comments. At first glance, what makes these stone steps stand out is their illogical size. Each step rises up to nearly 1 meter in height, far beyond the typical range of a modern human stride. A grown adult today would have to climb each step, rather than simply walk up them like a normal staircase. This means they do not conform to any architectural standards designed for human use as we know them. This has sparked a wide range of theories, from the possibility that these steps were never meant to be used as stairs to bolder speculations about ancient giants or non-human beings who may have once inhabited this land. One of the most mysterious aspects of the giant steps of Asuka lies in how they were created, not through the conventional method of assembling smaller stone blocks, like most ancient architecture, but rather carved directly from massive, monolithic stone with a level of precision that borders on perfection. Each surface is smooth and flat, each corner neatly squared, and each cut is so sharp it defies belief. There are no signs of primitive tools, no joints or seams, and none of the irregularities we typically see in ancient, handcrafted structures. What's even more astonishing is that despite the site being located in a region with deep historical roots, archaeologists have found no trace of metal or stone tools which were standard for stoneworking in prehistoric Japan. This raises an unsettling question. Could ancient people have possessed an advanced stone carving technology far beyond what we currently understand when compared to monumental structures like the Egyptian pyramids or Stonehenge? The Asuka steps share remarkable similarities, illogical scale construction techniques that remain unexplained, and a complete absence of historical records. Some Japanese scholars have boldly asked, could these really be the work of ancient Japanese people? Or are they possibly the legacy of another group from a distant land, or from a civilization that has completely vanished from human history? In an era when even modern machinery requires complex processes to cut hard stone with precision, the existence of the Asuka steps, created thousands of years ago, becomes even harder to explain. And it is precisely this near impossibility that makes the theory of a lost technology no longer sound like pure speculation, but rather a possibility that deserves to be taken far more seriously than ever before. One of the most puzzling aspects of the giant steps of Asuka is their complete disconnection from any religious or ceremonial context. In ancient Japan, most megalithic stone structures were linked to temple shrines or spiritual rituals, yet these massive steps stand alone, surrounded by nature, with no accompanying statues, altars, or sacred markers. They appear as isolated fragments, as if belonging to a lost structure that was either never completed or entirely erased by time. This absence of religious ties has led some researchers to suggest a radically different origin. Perhaps these are not spiritual at all, but scientific, the remains of an ancient observational platform, an astronomical calendar, or part of a forgotten system of advanced engineering. Their purpose remains elusive, but their alien context only deepens the mystery. One of the strangest things about the Asuka stone steps is that there is absolutely no historical record mentioning them. In a country like Japan, renowned for its meticulous historical documentation dating back to the Yamato period, this total silence is difficult to explain. Many scholars believe this could suggest that the structure predates the era when people began recording history, opening up the possibility of a pre-dynastic or even pre-civilization origin that remains entirely unknown. Like many other unsolved ancient mysteries, the Asuka stone steps have inspired a wide range of bold and unconventional theories. Some believe they are the remnants of an ancient race of giants beings far larger than modern humans who may have once walked the earth tens of thousands of years ago. Others turn to the ancient astronaut theory, suggesting that these steps could be the legacy of extraterrestrial beings, possibly part of an observation base or experimental project. Although these theories lack scientific evidence, they continue to persist largely because mainstream science has yet to provide a more convincing explanation. And this silence in itself has only given more space for such radical ideas to take root in the public imagination. The giant stone steps in Asuka are not just isolated blocks scattered in nature, they serve as a powerful reminder that humanity's past still holds countless unexplored mysteries. From their extraordinary monolithic design and seemingly advanced craftsmanship to the silence in historical records and the unclear purpose behind them, everything points to a profound enigma that remains unsolved. It's entirely possible that what we see today is merely a remnant of a buried civilization, a lost technology, or a chapter of history that was never written down. Drop a comment below and let us know when and where you're watching this video. Wishing you all a wonderful day. In the quiet hills of Jiangsu province, just outside the ancient city of Nanjing, lies one of the world's greatest megalithic enigmas, a massive unfinished monument known as the Shan Quarry megalith. At first glance, it appears to be little more than a few enormous stone blocks partly separated from the bedrock. But the deeper one looks the stranger it becomes. What makes this site so baffling isn't just its massive scale or the mystery of its abandonment. It's the precision, the impossible weight, the lack of historical records, and most of all, the haunting question, how was any of this even possible? What do you think happened at Yangshan? Was it simply a failed construction project, or something far more mysterious? Could this be the legacy of a lost technology or a glimpse into a forgotten chapter of human ingenuity? Let us know your theories in the comments. Commissioned during the early 15th century under the reign of the Ming dynasty's Yongle Emperor, the Yangshan megalith was intended to be part of a monumental gateway, a steely base for the emperor's mausoleum. The largest stone block measures over 16,000 tons, more than 100 times heavier than any single block used in the Great Pyramid of Giza. And yet, it was never moved. The entire project was abandoned mid-construction with no real explanation. The largest piece, a single block, measures 16.7 meters high, 6.8 meters wide, and 4 meters thick. Two other massive stone components lie nearby, also partially detached from the mountain. The original plan was ambitious: assemble all three into a monument of unprecedented scale. But calculations revealed too late that transporting these stones, even with an army of workers, was physically impossible. So they were simply left behind, untouched, for over 6 centuries. Many scholars argue this was a miscalculation, a bold project that overshot its physical limitations. But is that really all there is to it? The Ming dynasty was not new to large-scale construction. These were the same engineers who built the Forbidden City and restored the Great Wall. How could such a fundamental logistical flaw go unnoticed? And even more strange, if they realized it was too large, why cut so much of it so precisely before stopping? Why not scale it down or adjust the design? This leads us to the most fascinating and perplexing aspect of Yangshan, the precision of the quarry work. The stone blocks at Yangshan are not rough, crude shapes hacked out of the mountain. On the contrary, they are carved with remarkable precision. The cuts are geometrically straight, the corners sharply defined, and the surfaces appear unnaturally smooth for a site that's over 600 years old and has been exposed to the elements the entire time. Visitors and researchers often remark that the stones look machine-cut, as if they were sliced by high-powered saws or lasers rather than hand tools. Yet no records exist of the exact methods used, and no tools of that nature are known from the Ming era. How then did ancient workers make cuts so clean and straight they rival modern engineering? Detach gigantic blocks without causing cracks or instability. Maintain perfect symmetry across multiple segments of stone, each weighing thousands of tons. To this day, no chisel marks or hammer impressions are visible on the surface. There's no flaking, no uneven chiseling, and no sign of erosion that could explain such perfect edges. It's as if the stone was sliced cleanly like butter, with tools that defy what we know of 15th century capabilities. The precision of the Yangshan megalith has led some to speculate that the quarry might predate the Ming dynasty altogether, and that Yongli's engineers may have merely attempted to repurpose an ancient site, not realizing its true complexity or purpose. In this theory, the Yangshan megalith wasn't a failure of Ming engineering, but a misunderstanding of a much older, possibly lost technology. If true, that would mean the site represents not just a logistical mystery, but a technological anomaly, a silent relic of a civilization that left no name behind. Some fringe theorists have even proposed that advanced techniques, perhaps involving sound heat or unknown chemical processes, may have been used to soften or cut stone in ways we've yet to rediscover. While these ideas remain speculative, what's undeniable is that the precision alone is unexplainable by conventional tools of the time. Even if the stones had somehow been successfully carved, moving them would have been another monumental challenge. The quarry is located on hilly, uneven ground, with no large river nearby to facilitate transport. The path to the emperor's mausoleum lies dozens of kilometers away, across a landscape that would have been virtually impassable for such objects. There's no record of any ramp sled or wooden track built to support transport. No tools, no remains of logistical operations, no mention in architectural treatises of the era. The silence of history is perhaps as chilling as the monoliths themselves. Strangely, the Yangshan megalith is barely mentioned in historical texts. While some records from the Yongle period acknowledge quarrying activities, there is no detailed documentation on the effort, the workforce, the techniques used, or the reason for abandonment. It's as though the entire project was quietly forgotten, erased from priority after its failure. But can such a massive operation involving thousands of laborers and monumental stones truly vanish into obscurity? Why would the Ming court not record the greatest construction mistake of its era? Or was the omission deliberate to hide the failure, or perhaps to cover up something far stranger? Engineering hubris. A project too ambitious for its time, simple as that. Lost knowledge or technology? Did the Ming merely rediscover and attempt to use a site that predates them? Symbolic abandonment. Could the site have been meant as a statement, a show of power or divine reach, even if never completed? Censored failure. Was the project purposefully left undocumented due to political embarrassment? Whatever the case may be, Yangshan continues to challenge our assumptions about ancient engineering. It stands as both a monument and a riddle, a reminder that history is not always what it seems. Stand before the massive stone base of Yangshan, and you'll feel it, the weight of a mystery untouched for centuries. The chill of precision where there should be imperfection. The haunting silence where history should speak. It is quite literally a monument to the impossible. Hidden deep within the forests and swamplands of the Ural Basin lies a stretch of land that has baffled scientists, explorers, and mystics alike. Known only to a handful of cartographers, geologists, and conspiracy theorists, the magnetic ridge is not just a curious geological feature. It's a place where the natural laws of magnetism appear to break down entirely. Here compasses spin aimlessly, electronic devices fail without explanation, and even seasoned explorers report disturbing physical sensations and psychological effects. But above all else, What sets this anomaly apart is the unprecedented intensity and behavior of the magnetic field in the area, something far beyond what Earth's crust should be capable of generating on its own. What do you think could be causing such extreme magnetic behavior in this remote region? Could it be something natural that science hasn't fully understood yet, or something far more mysterious? Drop your theory in the comments below. We're reading them all. Located in an unmarked sector of the southern Ural Basin, the magnetic ridge does not appear on most civilian maps. Reaching it requires detailed Soviet-era military topography-skilled navigation, and often the assistance of local guides who have heard rumors of the place where compasses die. There are no paved roads, no cell towers, and no emergency services for hundreds of miles, only dense forest, rocky outcrops, and an eerie silence broken only by the rustling wind and the occasional chirp of birds that seem unusually sparse in the region. As soon as explorers enter the magnetic ridge, they encounter a bizarre phenomenon. Compasses immediately lose control. Instead of pointing north, the needle spins wildly, jitters violently, or freezes without reason. Modern GPS devices suddenly lose signal entirely or display coordinates that are off by dozens of kilometers, suggesting a form of interference unlike any known pattern, unrelated to solar radiation or typical geomagnetic noise. Drones crash for no apparent reason, and digital watches flicker, then reset on their own. The entire area becomes a zone where modern technology simply surrenders. At the heart of all the strange phenomena at Magnetic Ridge lies an unusually strong and highly unstable magnetic field, one that goes far beyond conventional geological explanations. Unlike typical magnetic anomalies found in iron-rich or magnetite-heavy regions, the magnetic field here is not steady. It fluctuates over time with chaotic shifts in both intensity and direction. In rare on-site surveys, instruments have recorded field strengths that are many times higher than Earth's average surface magnetism. But what worries scientists most is not just the intensity, it's the behavior. The magnetic field lines do not follow any recognizable pattern. Instead of flowing smoothly from pole to pole, they curl, twist, and spiral unpredictably, as if some hidden engine beneath the Earth is manipulating them. This raises a troubling question. Is this still a natural phenomenon, or something entirely beyond our current understanding of the world? What puzzles scientists even more is that there appears to be no clear geological cause to explain this magnetic anomaly. Typically, strong magnetic disturbances like this can be traced back to large iron ore veins or a buried iron-rich meteorite. But at Magnetic Ridge, there are no signs of such features. Seismic surveys reveal that the subsurface consists mainly of metamorphic rock lacking any significant magnetite or other magnetic minerals. The fact that an area with no apparent magnetic source can produce such intense and chaotic fields presents a serious scientific paradox. As a result, fringe theories have emerged. Some suggest the site contains extraterrestrial material buried thousands of years ago, while others propose it could be the remnants of a lost ancient technology, or even a massive underground machine that once operated beneath the Earth. Although these ideas lack direct evidence, the intensity and erratic behavior of the magnetic field at this site has made even the most conservative geophysicists reluctant to dismiss them entirely. Some researchers compare the magnetic pattern to those generated by rotating superconductors or toroidal plasma rings, technologies found only in high-end physics labs. If something like this exists underground, it suggests a form of energy generation or magnetic control far beyond anything in known natural geology. Others propose that the ridge may lie atop an unknown fault line, where geoelectric stress and piezoelectric effects amplify magnetic behavior in strange cycles. But none of these theories have been proven due to the extreme difficulty in conducting sustained studies at the site. Explorers don't just lose equipment, they report personal effects as well. Common symptoms include headaches, nausea, confusion, and anxiety, sometimes described as a pressure in the skull or a buzzing in the chest. Psychologists speculate that low-frequency magnetic oscillations might interfere with the brain's bioelectrical rhythms, causing these disturbances. Others experience unsettling phenomena like flickering lights, whispered voices, or strange camera distortions. While anecdotal, these stories are consistent and growing. Satellite imagery, despite distortion, reveals that the magnetic ridge is a long, narrow, unnaturally straight rock formation elevated above surrounding terrain. Its shape doesn't align with known tectonic or glacial activity. Some believe it's the remnant of an ancient geological upheaval, or possibly a man-made or non-natural construct. Its sheer regularity continues to fuel theories of forgotten civilizations, alien tech, or Earth's magnetic secrets buried deep below. No formal peer-reviewed study has ever been published about the magnetic ridge. Rumors persist that the Russian military studied it secretly during the 1980s, but no records have been released. Independent researchers have attempted to study it only to face equipment failure, strange interference, or even being followed by unidentified individuals. Is this paranoia, or is there something being actively concealed? The magnetic ridge stands as one of the last truly unsolved natural mysteries on Earth. Unlike puzzles of space or subatomic science, this anomaly is real, physical, and accessible, yet it continues to defy explanation. Is it a rare convergence of magnetic and geological forces, or something entirely outside the realm of modern science? Until full open investigation is allowed, the ridge will continue to break not only compasses, but also the minds of those who dare to understand it. For centuries, the Amazon rainforest was believed to be a vast, untamed wilderness, untouched by complex human civilization, too hostile and nutrient-poor to ever support large urbanized societies. But that assumption is now being shattered by a growing body of archaeological evidence, with the most groundbreaking revelation coming from an invisible grid, an ancient and precisely engineered network of settlements and roads hidden beneath the dense jungle canopy. Known now as the hidden grid beneath the Amazon, this discovery paints a radically different picture of South America's past, suggesting that far from being a pristine wilderness, the Amazon was once home to an advanced civilization with urban planning, road systems, and ceremonial architecture that rivaled the early city-states of Mesopotamia or the Mayan lowlands. What do you think about this discovery? Do you believe the Amazon could have once been home to a complex civilization with planned cities and roads? Share your thoughts, theories, or even wild guesses. We want to know what you think. At the heart of this revelation is LiDAR light detection, and ranging a laser scanning technology that can see through the thick vegetation of the Amazon. Mounted on aircraft, LiDAR pulses beams of light toward the forest floor and measures how long they take to bounce back, effectively creating a 3D map of what lies beneath the treetops. When scientists began using LiDAR to scan regions of the southwestern Amazon, what they found was astonishing. Beneath the greenery lay geometrically precise formations, straight roads, circular plazas, rectangular platforms, moats, and massive embankments, all laid out with a level of symmetry and planning that was impossible to explain as natural formations. Some of the road networks extended in straight lines for kilometers, cutting across terrain with a kind of engineering precision rarely associated with ancient Amazonian societies. Roads ran perpendicular to each other in a grid-like fashion, intersecting at exact angles. These roads connected large population centers, some with central plazas up to 150 meters across, surrounded by earthen mounds, ceremonial ditches, and raised causeways. The design bore all the hallmarks of intentional urban planning, hierarchical layouts, centralized administrative zones, and standardized spatial organization. These were not temporary encampments or scattered tribal villages. They were planned cities, built to last and likely governed by organized socio-political systems. What makes this discovery even more extraordinary is the scale. The region surveyed in just a few initial scans already revealed over 100 settlements, many of them connected by roads and spaced in a regular, almost mathematical fashion. And this is likely just the beginning. Experts estimate that thousands more remain hidden, waiting to be uncovered in areas that have not yet been mapped by LiDAR. The implications are staggering. What if the Amazon once hosted a continent-wide web of cities, connected by engineered highways and organized into a broader civilizational structure that rivaled classical antiquity? Equally compelling is the architectural style found in these lost settlements. The geometric shapes, perfect circles, squares, and straight lines, suggest an advanced understanding of measurement and symbolic design. Some sites contain radial structures, where roads or walls extend out from a central plaza, like spokes from a wheel, possibly indicating ritual or cosmological significance. Others are aligned with astronomical events, echoing patterns seen in Inca Olmec and Mayan ceremonial centers. These similarities raise questions. Were these Amazonian cultures trading ideas with the Andes or Mesoamerica, or did they develop independently, reaching similar conclusions through parallel innovation? The presence of such advanced infrastructure forces historians and archaeologists to rethink previous assumptions about pre-Columbian Amazonian societies. For decades, it was believed that the poor soil quality, specifically the highly weathered acidic oxysols of the region, could not sustain the agricultural base needed for large populations. Yet these newly discovered settlements seem to contradict that, hinting at the presence of ingenious agricultural practices like the creation of terra preta, a man-made nutrient-rich black soil that could support sustained farming. But the key revelation remains: the Amazon was not wild, but engineered. The people who lived here reshaped the forest into a habitable landscape. They didn't just adapt to the jungle, they transformed it. The forest we see today may in fact be the overgrown legacy of centuries of human land management, forest gardens, agroforestry, and settlement patterns hidden beneath centuries of regrowth. Perhaps most haunting of all is the silence surrounding these civilizations. Unlike the grand stone ruins of the Maya or the temples of the Inca, the Amazon's urban past was built largely from earthwood and organic materials, all of which decay rapidly in the humid climate. When these civilizations declined, possibly due to disease, following European contact, or ecological shifts, the jungle reclaimed their cities, almost completely erasing them from memory. Without the aid of modern remote sensing technology, they might have remained lost forever. This hidden grid is more than a technical discovery. It's a philosophical and historical turning point. It challenges the deeply rooted myth that the Amazon was a virgin wilderness before European colonization. Instead, it suggests that millions of people may have once called this rainforest home, organizing themselves into complex societies with knowledge of geometry, astronomy, and sustainable engineering. Their legacy now emerges not in stone, but in soil, topography, and light, a faint imprint on the land that redefines what we know about human civilization. In many ways, this revelation forces us to reconsider what civilization looks like. We've long associated it with monuments, writing, and metallurgy, but perhaps the people of the ancient Amazon developed a different model of complexity, less reliant on permanence, more in harmony with the rhythms of nature. Their cities didn't dominate the landscape. They blended into it, vanishing when the time came, leaving only subtle traces. Yet those traces, when pieced together, tell a story just as rich, just as sophisticated, and perhaps even more revolutionary than the ruins of stone we've come to expect. What else lies hidden beneath the canopy of the world's greatest rainforest? How many more ancient cities are waiting to be uncovered, and what secrets do they hold? As LiDAR scans continue, we may be on the brink of rewriting not just the history of South America, but the very definition of what human civilization means. Hidden deep within the remote forests and rocky highlands of the Ural Mountains lies one of the most enigmatic and controversial archaeological mysteries of our time: massive megalithic stone formations that seem to defy explanation. These colossal stones, stacked and arranged in ways that resemble man-made architecture, have stirred debates among scientists, independent researchers, and mystery enthusiasts alike. Some believe they are natural formations shaped by millennia of erosion and tectonic pressure. Others, however, see something far more extraordinary: the possibility that these were not shaped by nature, but constructed perhaps by a forgotten civilization, or even by beings of enormous size and strength. What do you think about these massive stone blocks? Are they simply the result of natural forces, or could they be remnants of a long-lost civilization? In your opinion, if not humans, then who or what could have created these mysterious structures? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear what you think. The most striking thing about the Ural megaliths is not just their size, but the mystery of their origin. Scattered across places like Mount Manpupuner and the Dyatlov Pass region, these formations seem at first glance like towering boulders, nothing more. But on closer inspection, many feature neatly aligned edges, right angles, and layered arrangements that are not typically found in natural geological processes. Some of the stone blocks appear to have been cut, rotated, and stacked, as if someone or something had intentionally shaped and assembled them. But here's where the real mystery begins. Despite their geometric regularity and apparent design, no one has ever found any tool marks on these stones. There are no grooves, no chisel impressions, no impact fractures. None of the telltale signs that we would expect if ancient humans had used stone or metal tools to cut or shape them. Nor are there any remnants of quarries, tools, or even settlements near the sites that would indicate sustained human presence. It's as if these structures simply appeared out of nowhere. This absence of evidence is paradoxically one of the most compelling pieces of the puzzle. In archaeology, even the most rudimentary ancient building sites tend to leave behind a trail: broken tools, pottery shards, fire pits, burial remains. But around the Ural megaliths, there is silence. No cultural artifacts, no inscriptions, no bones, no legends of construction. Only enormous stone blocks, many weighing hundreds to thousands of tons, resting in precarious, sometimes even deliberate-looking positions on the unforgiving terrain. This is what has led some theorists to propose radical alternatives. If not humans, then who or what could have built these? The idea of giants is not as far-fetched as it first seems when placed in the context of ancient mythologies. Across Russia, Siberia, and Eurasia, there exist countless tribal legends of towering beings who roamed the mountains, capable of lifting boulders with ease and shaping the landscape. In some of these tales, the giants are seen as teachers or gods. In others, They are destroyers of cities and rivals of mankind. Could these stories be distant echoes of a time when beings larger and stronger than modern humans actually walked the earth? Skeptics argue that the megaliths are just natural rock formations, tores formed by freeze-thaw cycles and erosion over millions of years. While such processes can create oddly shaped rocks, what they cannot easily explain is the precision and symmetry observed in many of these stones. In some locations, the rock layers appear almost mechanically sliced, with straight edges and corners sharper than what wind or ice would typically produce. Some blocks are stacked atop each other in formations that resist simple geological explanation, defying gravity and erosion patterns. These are not isolated rocks, randomly distributed. They appear in groups, sometimes resembling walls, towers, or broken monuments. Geologists who have examined the sites are divided. Some concede that natural forces may not fully explain the structures, especially given their inaccessibility and unusual placement. Several formations are located on cliffsides, steep ridges, or deeply forested areas where hauling multi-ton stones would be virtually impossible even with today's machinery. This raises an unsettling question. If humans didn't build them and nature didn't fully explain them, what's left? Even more puzzling is the lack of organic connection. No nearby culture, ancient or otherwise, has ever claimed ownership or origin of the Ural megaliths. There are no ancient Russian texts, no petroglyphs, no folklore that identifies a specific tribe or civilization as their builders. This is unusual in a country rich with Slavic Ugric and Finno-Permic traditions. Even the indigenous Mansi people of the Ural region refer to the monoliths with awe and mystery, often describing them as the work of the gods or of giants who once ruled the earth. The scale of some of these formations is equally staggering. Certain stone blocks are estimated to be larger than the biggest stones at Baalbek in Lebanon, where the largest known cut stone, the stone of the pregnant woman, weighs about 1,000 tons. Some Ural formations, by rough estimation, could reach up to 3,000 or even 4,000 tons. Moving such mass would be nearly impossible without advanced technology or an entirely different understanding of physics or strength. Naturally, such speculation has invited skepticism and ridicule. Mainstream academia has largely dismissed the idea of giants or unknown civilizations in the Urals, labeling the formations as interesting but explainable geology. However, no conclusive scientific explanation has been put forward. Most reports and expeditions remain inconclusive or unfinished, partly due to the extreme remoteness of the site's harsh weather and lack of institutional funding. In fact, many parts of the Ural Mountains remain unmapped and unexplored, with satellite imagery offering only limited visibility due to dense forest cover. Adding to the intrigue is the area's infamous connection to mystery and tragedy, the Dyatlov Pass incident being the most well-known. While not directly related to the megaliths, the sense of the unknown and the unsettling permeates the region. Visitors have reported strange electromagnetic readings, GPS anomalies, and even feelings of dread near certain formations, though such claims remain anecdotal and unverified. Could it be that the megaliths are not meant to be understood through conventional history? Perhaps they are leftovers from a time before history, before writing, before memory built, not by Homo sapiens as we know them, but by something older, stronger, and forgotten. A lost chapter of human or non-human existence. In the end, the Ural megaliths remain exactly what they appear to be: impossible to explain, impossible to ignore. And the question lingers in the cold mountain air. If no tools were used and no people lived here, who or what moved these stones? When you hear the word megalith, what comes to mind? Probably Stonehenge, maybe the dolmens of Brittany. But what if the largest, most concentrated, and most mysterious collection of megalithic structures on Earth wasn't in Europe at all, but in South Korea? Scattered across quiet hillsides and river valleys, over 35,000 ancient stone structures lie silently across the Korean peninsula. More than 40% of the world's dolmens are here, and yet most people have never heard of them. These stone giants are so abundant in places like Gochang, Hwasun, and Ganghwa that locals often pass them by without a second glance. But behind their worn, moss-covered surfaces lies a question that has baffled archaeologists for decades. What were they really for? Some call them tombs, some call them temples, but others believe they are something far more advanced, remnants of a forgotten science, a lost technology, or even an ancient system for harnessing Earth's natural forces. Are Korea's dolmens just silent memorials of the dead? Or could they be machines from the prehistoric past, built not only to honor, but to connect, measure, or even generate? The answers may rewrite what we think we know about prehistory. Do you think these dolmens were just tombs? Or could they be evidence of a forgotten technology? Let us know what you believe and why. One of the most puzzling aspects of Korea's dolmens for archaeologists is their enormous scale and seemingly advanced construction techniques. Many dolmens, especially the table-style types, feature capstones weighing over 100 tons, precisely placed atop upright stone pillars without any mortar, metal tools, or modern technology. Some are even raised more than 2 meters above ground, making the task of moving and assembling these massive stones a technical riddle that remains unsolved. Even more astonishing is the fact that these structures were built over 3,000 years ago, during the Neolithic to early Bronze Age, a period with no clear evidence of wheels, pulleys, or cranes. The tools discovered near these sites are mostly rudimentary stone implements or primitive bronze, clearly insufficient for cutting, shaping, or lifting multi-ton rocks. This raises a fundamental question. What kind of technology did prehistoric people use, and how did they do it? What's even more striking is that many dolmens contain no human remains at all. No skeletons, no ashes, no coffins, only a few broken potsherds or scattered stones. Although they are commonly referred to as tombs, a large number of dolmens completely lack the core elements of a burial site. This begs the question, were they really built to bury the dead? Or was their true purpose something entirely different? Perhaps something we've never even imagined. One of the most astonishing aspects of Korea's dolmens is not their sheer size or age, but rather how they are positioned in the landscape, as if ancient builders deliberately programmed the placement of each stone according to celestial and energetic principles. When mapped, many dolmens form alignments with natural phenomena, from the path of the rising and setting sun during equinoxes and solstices to so-called ley lines, hypothetical networks of ancient Earth energy. On Ganghwa Island, one of Korea's most prominent dolmen sites, researchers have found that many stone slabs are precisely aligned with the sunrise on the vernal equinox, a detail too exact to be accidental. The flat capstones may have functioned as primitive solar clocks, casting shadows or reflecting light at key moments of the year. This suggests that ancient people possessed not only advanced knowledge of astronomy, but also knew how to apply it to rituals, agriculture, or communal timekeeping, much like Stonehenge in England or the Sun Dagger site in the American Southwest. Beyond celestial data, some dolmens have attracted attention due to strange electromagnetic anomalies. Survey teams have reported magnetic disturbances, radiation spikes, and even malfunctioning electronic devices near certain dolmens. This raises a provocative question. Were these structures built to harness Earth's natural energy, or at the very least, to intentionally interact with it? But the mystery doesn't end there. Some theories propose that dolmens possess acoustic resonance properties. With their heavy capstones resting over enclosed spaces, their shapes resemble ancient sound chambers where low-frequency vibrations might be amplified, channeled, or focused. Some researchers believe these dolmens may have once served as resonance devices, capable of inducing altered states of consciousness or used in meditative, healing, or spiritual ceremonies. Surprisingly, these ideas are reinforced by local folklore. Many people have described strange sensations when standing near dolmens, from a subtle internal vibration or ear pressure to a deep, unexplainable mental calm. Some dolmens are even said to emit echoes or low humming sounds with no clear source. All of these phenomena have led scientists to revisit a fundamental question. Did ancient people understand something about energy, sound, and the cosmos that we are only now beginning to rediscover? One of the most intriguing aspects of Korea's dolmens is their uncanny resemblance to dolmens found across the world. From the windswept plains of Ireland and the misty forests of France to sacred lands in Israel and the river valleys of India, countless megalithic structures have been discovered that bear strikingly similar forms. Two or more upright stones supporting a massive horizontal capstone. A layout so consistent it's almost unsettling, especially considering that these cultures had no known contact with one another. The similarity goes beyond structure. Many dolmens across both Europe and Asia are oriented towards celestial phenomena, such as the sunrise on the summer solstice or other seasonal markers. This raises a compelling question. How could civilizations separated by thousands of kilometers and living in different eras all arrive at the same architectural concept? Is it mere coincidence or evidence of a shared ancient knowledge that once spanned continents, possibly linked to astronomy, Earth's energy fields, or a cosmic worldview that modern humanity has long forgotten? What makes the Korean dolmens especially mysterious is that they appeared suddenly in overwhelming numbers and then disappeared just as abruptly. There is no clear sign of gradual architectural development, as if a lost civilization had suddenly accessed a specific kind of knowledge, used it intensively for a brief moment in time, and then vanished into silence. In modern-day Korea, local legends add more mystery. In regions like Gochang, people believe dolmens have healing powers or bring spiritual clarity. Some claim emotional shifts or strange sensations when standing near specific dolmens. These stories echo global traditions about megalithic sites. From the pyramids of Egypt to the stone circles of Britain, ancient stones are often tied to cosmic forces, energy, and consciousness. Could the Korean dolmens be part of this same forgotten understanding? Modern fields like archaeoacoustics and geobiology are now exploring how ancient architecture may have interacted with sound and earth energy. Researchers are beginning to consider, what if dolmens were not only monuments, but instruments for tracking time, channeling sound, or connecting with the cosmos? The dolmens of Korea challenge our assumptions. Their engineering complexity, cosmic alignments, and lack of human remains raise a profound question. Were they just tombs? Or were they something else entirely? Maybe they were energy devices. Maybe they were observatories. Or maybe they were part of an ancient system of knowledge we have yet to rediscover. As the years go by, more researchers are daring to ask, what if we've misunderstood these structures all along? What if Korea's dolmens are not memorials of the dead, but machines of the living past? Amid the dry, windswept plains of the Bolivian highlands, where time itself feels frozen, stands a ruin that continues to baffle archaeologists around the world. Its name is Tiwanaku, an ancient city near Lake Titicaca that was once the heart of a powerful civilization, long vanished. But what makes Tiwanaku truly mysterious isn't what remains. It's what no one can explain. Scattered across the Pumapunku sector of the site are a series of H-shaped stone blocks. At first glance, they seem unremarkable, but the closer you look, the more unsettling they become. These stones exhibit near-perfect geometry, precise 90-degree angles, smooth, mirror-like surfaces, and intricately symmetrical grooves so exact, they appear as though machined by modern CNC tools. This raises an unsettling question. How could ancient people, without steel, without wheels, without machines, have crafted such bizarre shapes from a volcanic stone nearly as hard as granite? Could these be more than just lifeless blocks of stone? Could they be the last clues of a lost technology, one powerful enough to make us question everything we think we know about human history? What do you think about these mysterious H-shaped blocks? Were they truly crafted by the ancient Tiwanaku people, or are they remnants of a long-lost technology? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Are we underestimating our ancestors, or have we overlooked a crucial piece of human history? One of the most controversial and astonishing aspects of the H-shaped stone blocks at Tiwanaku is their absurd level of geometric precision. Each block exhibits an almost perfectly symmetrical H shape, with straight edges, sharp 90-degree angles, smooth machined surfaces, and evenly carved grooves. Upon close inspection, many observers are struck by how these details resemble the work of modern CNC machinery, rather than something created by a pre-industrial civilization. The straight cuts, crisp corners, and consistent repetition across multiple blocks give the impression of mass-produced industrial components. Even more remarkable is that all of these blocks are carved from andesite, a volcanic rock known for its extreme hardness, just below granite in durability. Under normal circumstances, creating precise grooves or clean cuts in andesite would require tools with steel-grade hardness or even advanced machinery. And yet, to this day, no archaeological evidence has been found suggesting that the Tiwanaku people had access to steel, cutting devices, or any high-precision tools. This raises a critical question. How could an ancient civilization achieve such a high level of craftsmanship? Was this the result of highly refined manual skill, or could it be a lingering trace of a lost and forgotten technology? One of the most intriguing aspects of the H-shaped blocks at Tiwanaku is their remarkable uniformity. Dozens of blocks have been found with nearly identical dimensions, proportions, and design details, suggesting that they were not created as isolated pieces, but rather as part of a standardized production process. Yet, there is no evidence that the Tiwanaku people possessed precise measurement systems or tools capable of mass-producing such components, both of which would be essential to achieve this level of consistency. This leads to a critical question. Why would an ancient civilization invest so much effort into crafting a shape as complex as the letter H, instead of opting for simpler square or rectangular blocks? The H shape is not only more difficult to carve, but also requires a high level of precision in its grooves, notches, and joints. This has led some researchers to suspect that the design may have had a technical or even mechanical purpose, rather than being purely aesthetic or symbolic. If that's the case, then these blocks are not just relics of stone. They may be clues pointing to a level of engineering thought far beyond what we typically associate with the ancient world. Outside of mainstream archaeology, some researchers aligned with the ancient technology school of thought argue that the H-blocks at Tiwanaku may be evidence of a technological capability far ahead of its time, perhaps even unrelated to the Tiwanaku civilization itself. They point out that the shape of these stone blocks shares striking similarities with modern engineered concrete components, commonly used in modular construction. The grooves, recesses, and protruding ridges on the surfaces appear not decorative but mechanical in nature, seemingly designed to allow the blocks to be stacked, interlocked, and aligned with high precision. The repeated uniformity across many blocks strengthens this theory. Perhaps these were once parts of a larger modular engineering system, now reduced to scattered ruins. If true, this raises profound questions about the true origin of the blocks and hints at the possible existence of a lost layer of ancient technological knowledge. The H-shaped stone blocks were discovered at Pumapunku, a sector within the Tiwanaku complex, renowned for its array of massive stone slabs weighing tens of tons, scattered across the site as if shattered by a tremendous force. Many of these blocks show signs of precision stoneworking that are difficult to explain, especially when compared to the technological level traditionally attributed to the Tiwanaku people. What puzzles researchers even more is that no corresponding tools have ever been found. No traces of iron or steel, no cutting blades, no wheels for transport. The Tiwanaku are known to have used only tools made of stone, copper, and bone, none of which would have been sufficient to quarry, transport, or shape the extremely hard andesite stone, particularly at an altitude of nearly 4,000 meters, where oxygen is thin, conditions are harsh, and major stone quarries are far away. The entire process, from extraction to precise placement, remains an unsolved mystery in the history of prehistoric engineering. What's particularly noteworthy is that the H-blocks are not isolated anomalies. They appear in large numbers and share nearly identical size and shape. This level of uniformity has led many researchers to propose that they were intentionally produced as part of a modular system, likely meant to construct a larger structure, possibly a foundation, load-bearing frame, or some form of interlocking architectural system. Remarkably, some of the blocks feature sliding grooves, blind holes, and interlocking ridges, details that are clearly not decorative but instead resemble modern alignment and locking mechanisms used in engineered construction. If this is indeed the case, these are not just ordinary building stones, but purpose-built technical components. This raises a critical question. Who designed these blocks with such precision? And what was their intended function? Whether you're a mainstream scholar or an open-minded skeptic, one fact is undeniable. The H-blocks of Tiwanaku pose a serious challenge to conventional archaeology. They don't appear to be mere artistic expressions, but rather fragments of something more intelligent, more deliberate, and possibly more advanced. Could humanity have once possessed a layer of knowledge that has since been lost to time? Or are we fundamentally misunderstanding the capabilities and engineering mindset of ancient civilizations? Whatever the answer, the H-blocks still sit silently amid the ruins, unmoved by time, as if waiting for us to rediscover a forgotten chapter of our own past. Deep in the wild, untamed mountains of southern Russia's Ural range, where no trails exist, where no human voices echo, and only the wind whispers through frozen cliffs, lies a secret the world has almost entirely overlooked. In a place seemingly reserved for wild bears and snow-laden forests, there stand massive stone blocks, weighing hundreds of tons, stacked with an uncanny precision, as if crafted with technology thousands of years ahead of its time. You won't find them in textbooks. They're absent from documentaries. No tour guide will ever take you there. But once you lay eyes on them, you'll never forget. This is not Stonehenge. This is not the pyramids of Giza. This is an entirely different world, where silent stones whisper of a forgotten past that history has never dared to record. If you happen to discover a colossal structure like this deep in the forest, with no name, no signs of civilization, and unknown to the world, would you believe it's the remnant of an ancient civilization or just a coincidence of nature? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hidden deep within the southern mountains of the Ural Range, Gornaya Shoriya stands as one of the most astonishing archaeological sites ever recorded in Russia. Not because of any ornate decoration, but because of the sheer, unimaginable scale of what ancient humans were supposedly capable of. Here, researchers have discovered massive granite blocks, each weighing between 300 and over 400 tons, stacked like towering fortress walls in rugged, mountainous terrain. The mystery lies not only in their weight, but in their apparent construction. Perfectly flat surfaces, precisely squared corners as if cut by CNC machines, and joints so tight they're nearly seamless. Many of the slabs stretch tens of meters in length and are stacked with a level of precision that rivals modern industrial work. And yet, there is no trace of how they were quarried, moved, or assembled. Gornaya Shoriya is not just an archaeological site, it is a direct challenge to the entire known history of human engineering. The biggest question surrounding Gornaya Shoriya isn't just how massive the stone blocks are, it's how they were transported to their current location and assembled with such uncanny precision. The site sits over 1,000 meters above sea level, deep in rugged mountainous terrain, with no traces of roads, wheels, or metal tools ever found. Even more puzzling is the complete absence of evidence for any settlements or foundational structures nearby. Some researchers have proposed that the formation might be natural, but the symmetry, repetition, and clearly intentional layered stacking make that theory increasingly difficult to support. It's not just Gornaya Shoriya that baffles archaeologists. The Ural region is home to several other mysterious sites that continue to challenge our understanding of prehistory. On Vera Island, in the middle of Lake Turgoyak, researchers discovered stone temples built from neatly squared blocks arranged in an orderly fashion. Notably, there are signs that they employed dry stone vaulting techniques, a form of architecture extremely rare before the Roman era. Nearby, the Shigir idol, a nearly 5-meter-tall wooden statue intricately carved and dated to be over 11,000 years old, was unearthed. These findings suggest that the Ural Mountains were once home to a highly developed ancient culture with advanced technical skills and complex symbolic thinking, in stark contrast to the conventional image of early humans during that period. When returning to Gornaya Shoriya, one cannot help but be astonished by the scale of its stone walls. Many of these structures stretch over 40 meters in length, stand about 10 meters tall, and average 3 meters in thickness, forming immense and solid constructions that resemble fortresses. Yet what truly stuns researchers is the extraordinary shape of the individual stone blocks. Some have surfaces carved into smooth, flowing curves, the kind that would require high-pressure water jet-cutting technology even by today's standards. The stone faces are flat and polished, corners are sharply squared, and the joints fit so tightly that not even a blade could slip through, all bearing the marks of highly sophisticated craftsmanship. This raises a profound question. Could these be the work of a prehistoric civilization with technological capabilities far beyond what we currently understand? A civilization entirely erased from recorded history. One of the strangest aspects of Gornaya Shoriya is the complete absence of any traces related to human activity. There are no metal tools, no pottery shards, no building foundations, and no signs of any settlements ever existing in the area. All that remains are the massive silent stone blocks, standing cold and still, like entities that do not belong to the timeline. They exist defiantly, yet offer no explanation, like an ancient riddle that history itself has deliberately chosen to forget. Gornaya Shoriya is often referred to as the Baalbek of Russia due to the sheer scale of its stone blocks, which remind many of the ancient structures in Lebanon. However, this comparison only highlights a more unsettling difference. Baalbek still has Roman ruins, ancient inscriptions, and clear signs of civilization. Gornaya Shoriya, in contrast, is utterly empty. No writings, no legends, no historical clues to follow. Some scholars have called it the submerged part of the historical iceberg, a place where chapters of the past remain unwritten, or perhaps were deliberately erased from humanity's memory. Mainstream archaeologists often argue that the structures at Gornaya Shoriya are simply natural geological formations, misunderstood by modern observers as man-made. However, as more field photos, 3D models, and geological analyses continue to emerge, it becomes increasingly difficult to dismiss the possibility of intentional design. Cuts stretching several meters, perfectly squared angles, smooth, flat surfaces, and blocks fitted together with virtually no gaps are hard to explain as the result of random weathering. These features suggest the presence of a level of engineering far beyond what any known prehistoric civilization should have been capable of. Several unconventional theories have been proposed to explain the mysterious phenomena at Gornaya Shoriya. Some researchers suggest that ancient people may have possessed knowledge of acoustic resonance or magnetism that allowed them to move massive stone blocks, each weighing hundreds of tons, without mechanical tools. Though unproven, this theory arises from the fact that the physical traces at the site do not match any known prehistoric technologies. Even more boldly, some propose that these are remnants of a pre-flood civilization, an advanced culture that thrived before a global cataclysm and left behind scattered traces across the Ural Mountains, Antarctica, and South America. If true, Gornaya Shoriya may be a surviving fragment of a forgotten world, buried by time and lost to history. Whether you believe in science, spirituality, or extraterrestrial theories, the megalithic structures in the Ural Mountains remain an unsolved mystery. They are not myths nor illusions. They undeniably exist, with a scale, location, and craftsmanship that challenge every boundary set by ancient history. The silent yet persistent presence of these stone blocks forces us to ask, have we truly understood the full story of our own past? Perhaps only when we are humble enough to admit how much we still don't know will history finally begin to reveal the hidden chapters it has long kept secret. Imagine flying over the icy highlands of Bolivia, where the wind cuts through your skin and the land stretches endlessly in all directions. Suddenly, beneath you appear countless perfectly straight lines, stretching for dozens of kilometers, crossing over hills, valleys, and barren plains, as if someone once drew them across the earth with a giant pen. They're not pyramids, they're not animal figures, they are something else entirely, a strange geographical labyrinth known as the Sajama lines. No one knows when they were made. No one is certain who created them. But one thing is undeniable. They are still here, silent, unwavering, as if waiting for something, or someone patient enough to understand. If you stumbled upon these massive lines in the middle of nowhere, with no signs, no explanations, who would you think created them? Ancient people, aliens, or something else entirely? Share your theory in the comments. We'd really love to know what you think. Unlike the massive animal-shaped geoglyphs of Nazca, where the lines form easily recognizable figures from above, the Sajama lines are entirely different. They do not depict any specific image, but instead consist of long, perfectly straight lines stretching for dozens of kilometers. These lines cut across hills, valleys, and barren plains, connecting sacred locations such as temples, ancient tombs, ceremonial sites, and old settlements. Due to this deliberate pattern of connection, many researchers believe the Sajama lines are not merely artistic expressions, but rather a kind of ritual map, reflecting the spiritual worldview of ancient people. To them, the land was not just a place to live, but a sacred canvas expressing the bond between humans, ancestors, and the cosmos. One of the most debated aspects of the Sajama lines is this: no one truly knows when these lines were created. Unlike typical archaeological sites, where dating can be done using charcoal, pottery, or fossilized bones, the lines at Sajama were made simply by clearing away the dark surface stones to reveal the lighter soil underneath. There was no carving, no construction materials, and no organic remains left behind. As a result, no scientific method available today, not even radiocarbon dating, can determine their precise age. All we have are oral accounts from the local Aymara people, who say the lines existed in the time of their ancestors, long before the rise of the Inca civilization. However, many researchers believe even that estimate may be conservative. Based on their remarkable preservation and vast scale, the Sajama lines could be over 3,000 years old, or possibly much older. It is a mystery that continues to challenge the very limits of modern archaeology. Due to the complete absence of physical evidence that could help determine their age, researchers have attempted to date the Sajama lines by linking them to nearby ancient structures. However, none of these connections have proven reliable enough to draw firm conclusions. Even interviews with the local Aymara people yield vague responses, such as "they've been here since the time of our ancestors." This has led some scientists to admit that the Sajama lines may be one of the very few man-made structures on Earth for which we are entirely unable to determine an origin date, making the mystery all the more profound and elusive. One of the most astonishing features of the Sajama lines is their near-perfect straightness. Many of the lines deviate by less than 1 degree from a true axis, even as they stretch for dozens of kilometers across incredibly rugged terrain, mountain slopes, valleys, and fields of uneven rock. This level of precision is impressive even by modern surveying standards, and yet to this day, there is no evidence that ancient people used any measuring tools, alignment instruments, or construction techniques. So how were they able to maintain such perfectly straight lines over such vast distances? Some theories suggest they relied on celestial markers, such as the rising sun or fixed stars, while others propose the lines may have been the result of large-scale ceremonial rituals in which hundreds of people walked along predetermined paths, demonstrating the extraordinary coordination of a symbol-rich, spiritually driven culture. Unable to be dated and unlinked to any known civilization, the Sajama lines seem to belong to a nameless, timeless world. They bear no writing, no symbols, and reveal no clear belief system. leaving researchers with no conventional way to interpret them. They exist as a kind of memory etched into the earth, a forgotten spiritual map, possibly created by a vanished culture that left behind traces without explanation. Perhaps these lines have remained silently in place for millennia, and the longer we look at them, the more we feel as if we're staring into a past that was never written down, yet never truly lost. Despite having a total length that far surpasses Nazca, over 16,000 kilometers of straight lines, the Sajama lines remain virtually unknown to the modern world. One reason is that they do not form clear artistic images, lacking the visually striking, from above appeal of Peru's famous birds and monkeys. Instead, they are simply straight lines etched across a remote highland, difficult to access and easy to overlook. But the deeper issue lies in the lack of official recognition, absence of effective preservation efforts, and a complete lack of media or tourism campaigns that reflect their true cultural and archaeological value. As a result, one of the most monumental man-made structures on Earth continues to lie in quiet obscurity. Though the modern world has largely overlooked the Sajama lines, to the Aymara people, an indigenous community that has lived for thousands of years at the foot of Mount Sajama, these lines have never lost their sacred meaning. To them, they are not merely archaeological remnants, but rather spirit paths walked by their ancestors during solemn rituals beneath the vast Andean sky. According to tradition, these lines serve as pilgrimage routes, connecting the human world with the divine, guiding prayers, offerings, and spiritual journeys. Every step taken along them is more than a physical act. It is a reenactment of the profound connection between past, present, and the sacred universe within the Aymara worldview. Today, the Sajama lines face the risk of disappearing forever, quietly and almost without anyone noticing. Because they are not officially recognized as a protected heritage site, these vast pathways lack any meaningful form of preservation, resulting in sections being crushed by trucks, cut through by roads, or erased by mining and agricultural activity. What's most alarming is that due to their obscurity and mystery, the loss of each line often goes unrecorded and unnoticed. There are no warning signs, no fences, and no designated authority in charge of safeguarding them. Without urgent intervention from the Bolivian government and international organizations, this largest geoglyph network in the world may vanish entirely before humanity ever understands what it has truly lost. The Sajama lines are a perfect paradox, too vast to ignore, yet too obscure to explain. No dates, no writings, no symbols, just strange, perfectly straight lines stretching across the land, defying all efforts at modern scientific classification. Perhaps their true meaning doesn't lie in the question "what are they?" but in the quiet reminder they offer. Not every mystery exists to be solved. Some are simply meant to be felt and listened to with intuition. Imagine you're digging a small well in your backyard, and suddenly your shovel strikes something hard, stone-like, but unlike any natural rock you've ever seen. It's not a random boulder. These are box-shaped blocks with sharp edges, stacked like bricks, and you realize you've just uncovered something that shouldn't exist here. As unbelievable as it sounds, this actually happened in the 1850s in a small town called Rockwall, Texas. While digging a well, early settlers accidentally discovered a massive stone wall buried deep underground, and from that moment, one of America's greatest archaeological mysteries was born. For over 170 years, this wall has divided scientists and sparked debates that refuse to die. Is it really just a rare geological formation? Or are we looking at the remains of a long-lost civilization, buried right beneath our feet? The answer still lies deep within the earth, beneath Rockwall. And what you're about to learn might completely change the way you see human history. What do you think about this discovery? If you were the one digging that well and stumbled upon a massive wall buried deep underground, what would you think you just uncovered? A rare geological phenomenon, or the lost remains of an ancient civilization? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know which theory you lean toward. One of the most controversial and extraordinary features of the Rockwall structure is its uncanny resemblance to man-made architecture. Unlike the irregular rock formations commonly found in nature, segments of the wall are composed of large stone blocks shaped almost like rectangular bricks, with sharp edges, clear right angles, and most strikingly, stacked in remarkably straight and uniform rows. This level of geometric precision, especially the consistent 90-degree angles and tight-fitting joints, gives the impression of an ancient wall foundation, possibly built by the Romans or a lost Middle Eastern civilization. Photographs taken throughout the 20th and 21st centuries, along with eyewitness descriptions, reveal details that seem beyond what natural processes could randomly produce, raising a profound question. Could nature really accidentally construct something this precise? Examining the individual stone blocks of Rockwall in detail, what puzzles researchers most is the level of technical precision, a rarity in natural formations. Many of the blocks not only feature uniform right angles and flat contact surfaces, but also exhibit signs that suggest deliberate shaping. Notably, some stones contain indentations or protrusions resembling mortise and tenon joints, a mechanical connection technique commonly used in ancient architecture to lock blocks together and prevent them from shifting over time. While this method is frequently seen in ancient stonework from Egypt to South America, it is extremely rare in nature. The presence of such features in Rockwall makes the idea of random geological formation increasingly difficult to support. These characteristics reflect a clear sense of human design and planning, not the unconscious result of pressure and erosion. One of the most astonishing features of the Rockwall structure is the remarkable precision with which its stone blocks fit together. According to eyewitnesses, many of the stones show cuts so straight they appear machine-made, with surfaces that are almost perfectly smooth, showing no signs of natural fracturing or random erosion. In some sections, the stones are fitted so tightly that not even a razor blade can slide between them. This level of precision immediately brings to mind the great megalithic sites like Sacsayhuaman in Peru or the pyramids of Giza in Egypt, where ancient stone-fitting techniques remain a mystery to modern science. The real question is, how could nature possibly produce such flawless accuracy? One factor that makes the man-made structure theory even more convincing is the presence of a mortar or cement-like substance between the stone blocks. Several reports describe this material as having a distinctly different color and texture from the surrounding natural rock, suggesting that it was used to bind and reinforce the structure. If modern chemical analysis confirms that this is an artificial compound, it would serve as undeniable evidence of human intervention. Not only does its geometric shape raise eyebrows, but the overall scale and layout of the Rockwall structure also sparks serious questions. According to records and observations dating back to the 19th century, this formation does not appear to run randomly, but rather forms a massive circle or polygonal shape encircling the central area of Rockwall, Texas. In some areas, the wall extends as deep as 9 meters, around 30 feet, underground, with an average height of 3 to 4 meters, 10 to 12 feet, far larger than any known natural geological fracture. At this size, the structure begins to resemble a large-scale construction, possibly a defensive wall, an ancient city boundary, or a sacred enclosure. The apparent planning and structural coherence raise questions that go beyond geology. Who built it? For what purpose? And why has it remained buried and forgotten for thousands of years? Although the mystery of Rockwall remains unsolved, most mainstream geologists maintain that it is merely a rare, natural phenomenon, classified as jointed sandstone, formed by tectonic pressure over millions of years. They argue that natural fractures can, by chance, create geometric patterns resembling man-made structures. However, this theory faces strong opposition from those who have conducted on-site surveys. These critics point out that the symmetry, uniformity, and architectural logic of the stone blocks at Rockwall far exceed anything nature has ever produced. No other geological formation exhibits such a clear level of intentional design or calculated structure. In contrast to mainstream geological explanations, many independent researchers, amateur archaeologists, and alternative theorists have proposed far more radical ideas. They suggest that the Rockwall structure may be the remnant of a long-lost prehistoric civilization, possibly dating back to before the last ice age, over 12,000 years ago. Some link the wall to legends of forgotten cities or ancient sacred sites built by groups with highly advanced stoneworking skills. More extreme theories even propose that the original architects may not have been human at all, though such ideas remain purely speculative. One of the most frustrating aspects of the Rockwall mystery is that to this day, no official, comprehensive, or modern archaeological excavation has ever been conducted. The main reason lies in the fact that the structure sits beneath residential neighborhoods and private property, making legal access and logistics extremely difficult. Even more concerning, however, is the long-standing indifference from the academic community, which has largely dismissed the site as just a normal geological formation. As a result, most of the available information comes from private digs, old documents, and anecdotal accounts, none of which have been rigorously verified through peer-reviewed scientific research. This gap in investigation has allowed countless unproven theories to persist, and perhaps even left the truth buried underground. But none of this diminishes the potential significance of what lies underground in Rockwall, Texas. If this structure is indeed man-made, it could rewrite everything we thought we knew about the history of North America. It would suggest the existence of an advanced, organized society capable of large-scale architecture, long before any known civilization in the region. The rock wall, whether natural or artificial, remains silent and hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be understood. In a time when we have tools like ground-penetrating radar, 3D scanning, and chemical forensics, perhaps it's time we look again at this buried anomaly. Not just out of curiosity, but because we might be missing an entire chapter of human history.